The opening will be presented by Councilmember Adams, who is actually on his way back. He had a debate, so he is on his way back. Does someone want to provide an opening? Or do you want me to, or?
I can do one.
Okay, Councilmember Hunt, thank you.
Okay. Gosh, it's been a busy week for us with the budget, and just kind of some updates that we've been working. We do hear you, we do listen when you talk, and we're working, doing our best to try to balance the future of the city with, you know, current residents and what they're able to do. And also wanted to say thanks so much. Received a lot of emails today, specifically regarding the rezone, and appreciated hearing all the perspective there. Got a lot, didn't have time to get through all of them before here, but got through as many as I could. And I know my fellow council members have done the same thing. Not to toot my horn necessarily, but the council in general, I think we have done a lot to try to make sure that we're listening, and just want you to know you're heard. We listen to you. We appreciate what you have to say. We're glad you reach out. And then after that, we just do the pledge, right? So we'll go ahead and do the pledge.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I said the wrong word. I said the wrong word. My bad.
Sure. Councilmember Blackham.
I would just like to take a second to mention that if there was such thing as a holiday for Memorial Day or for a cemetery, that's this weekend. But I want to thank the Kaysville City Parks Department and who takes care of the cemetery. If you get a chance to go by, because you know the graves are going to get decorated, but they have done an absolute fantastic job getting that cemetery into shape, and it looks gorgeous. And they do that for the people to come show the respect for the dead. And I just wanted to mention, if you get a chance, drive by the cemetery and take a look at it, just so that. And I would do this at council member reports, but usually there's nobody here for that. So. If you get a chance, but I'd really like to thank our Parks Department, and the cemetery section up there has worked so hard to get that looking the way it has. And if you get a chance, drive by and look at it. It's really an honor to see what they've done.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham. I will also mention we have a Memorial Day program on Monday at 10 a.m. at the cemetery. So love to have you. Okie doke. We have an item on our agenda called public comment. It's called Call to the Public. It's item number 2. We have 2 people signed up to speak, so I'll invite you both up, Val Starkey and Megan Snow. You'll come up in that order.
Val Starkey. Everyone in Kaysville has deep respect for our fire department's work and our needs for warmth and safety that a good fire department provides. Thus, the budget is a hard thing in the next 4 or 5 years, when there is a strong desire to build another station on the west side. My purpose is to give examples of a phased approach for fire station planning and construction, and hope that we can achieve something that is good, quicker, and more palatable to the citizens than the current plan of a complete GEO bond and a full-scale all-at-once fire department station. March 5th, the City Council had a good discussion on choices, but one choice was not detailed enough to consider a phased approach for building the fire department. Most of the discussion on that time was about the idea of a satellite station. I will now read some examples that I found on the internet of 6 places in Utah that are doing phased approaches. Wasatch Fire District has a 3-phase. Payson City has 2 distinct phases, and all of these are trying to spend money in a sequential fashion, not in all one time, okay? St. George has a multi-million-dollar cost, but they have a phased budget allocation, okay? Then we have American Fork. The city's executing a phased approach in two portions: the physical building shell followed by an interior component. Vineyard opened a completely new firehouse in phases, conjunction with Orem Fire to accommodate city growth. So there's a shell and a finish approach. There's separate building prep and final. There's modular transition, and my request is simply that we rethink and maybe put on pause the action today until more discussion can be done on a phased approach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan?
Good evening. My name is Megan Snow, and I am looking to rezone the house at 42 West Center Street. I am a Davis County community member. I grew up in Kaysville. I raised my young children here. My daughters dance at Clyde Adams and have for the past 12 years. This city is not a place I am passing through. It is my home. And I am here tonight because I believe I have found a way to give something lasting back to it. This city's own vision statement says that Kaysville is a city that knows what it stands for. It calls for safeguarding traditions, heritage, and values. It speaks of creating destinations for locals to experience and transform without leaving Kaysville. It talks about preservation of historic infrastructures and a place for markets, events, and entertainment. I am not asking the council to do something new. I am asking you to make that vision a reality. The Barnes House has stood on Center Street since 1884. For 140 years, it has been privately held. I want to change that. My vision is to bring the Barnes family home back to the people of Kaysville. I envision brides walking down those stairs. I envision families gathering in those rooms. I envision community events, historic tours, and service opportunities that honor what the Barnes family built and make it accessible to everyone. I have talked to the neighbors. When I walked through the neighborhood, so many of them were excited about the prospect of me turning this house into something that they could use and that the community could use. The Barnes home has been a part of Kaysville for 140 years, and I want to see it a part of Kaysville for 140 more. I want to be honest with you about something. I know my venue will add to the existing parking challenge on Center Street. I am not standing here pretending otherwise. But I also need to name what I have seen. The dance studio, which my daughters are a part of, I have been one of the problems. The theater and the ice cream parlor collectively serve hundreds of people every single night, with no dedicated parking and no accessibility to this council. This problem exists long before I arrived. I am not asking to be exempt from it. I am asking this council to finally sit down and solve it together. Closing a portion of Center Street and converting it to shared public parking would serve every business of the corridor, including mine. I cannot solve this problem alone, but with the help of the council, I believe that we can. I am a mother of 5. I have spent 26 years raising my family and giving everything I've had to this community. This is my turn, and I want my turn to mean something for Kaysville, not just for me. I am not here asking for permission to just build a business. I am here asking for this chance to restore a landmark, serve a community, and help solve a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a presentation and proclamation to Kim Smith, who has served as our youth court advisor for many years, and this will be presented by Chief Oberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to have Kim come up.
Very nice. It is on.
It's on.
Oh, is it not on? Can you turn the mic on? Okay. Anne Marie. She's checking with IT on your mic. I think she's trying to quickly check in.
But in the meantime, it's just this awkward silence.
In the meantime, we could give you a mic, handheld mic. Should we do that? Yeah, that's true. Okay, maybe, whatever you want to do. You can have my mic.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've got with me Officer Criddle. He's our SR at Davis High School, and he's been our police liaison to the youth court program for the last couple of years, and Kim Smith here. And Kim was one of the first people I met in the city when I was a new chief almost 14 years ago. And I didn't know, I'm trying to learn a lot of our programs and our personnel and how the city works. I met Kim, and the program needed some attention. I had no idea what it was about, but it is a fantastic program and one of the best things I think that we do as a city as far as public safety goes. So if you'll indulge me just for a minute, thanks, Ray. If you'll indulge me just for a minute, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about Kim. She grew up in Plano, Texas, and moved to Utah in 1986 to attend the University of Utah. There she earned her Bachelor of Science in Political Science in 1988 and later graduated from law school at BYU in 1991. She went on to practice corporate, transactional, and securities law for more than a decade, and in 2004 she stepped away from her legal career to focus on raising her family. For the last 35 years, she's called Kaysville home, but one of her greatest gifts to the city began in the year of 2000 when she was approached by a Davis High School student who shared an idea for creating the Kaysville City Youth Court. She took that idea and turned it into a reality. She researched the concept, presented it to the police department and city council, and with their support, founded the Kaysville City Youth Court. In August of that year, the first session began with 20 student judges. The first case involved shoplifting, and the sentence focused not just on consequences, but on accountability, education, and growth. And that is the spirit that has defined the youth court ever since. Over the last 25 years, under Kim's leadership as founder and advisor, the youth court has heard almost 1,100 cases involving over 450 youth court judges, assigned more than 13,000 community service hours and more than 700 educational papers. It's involved over 3,000 apology letters, and the volunteers have also taught more than 2,000 peer counseling and peer tutoring classes. Even more impressive to me is the legacy of service that she's inspired. The 450 youth court judges donated an estimated 40,000 hours of volunteer judicial service in this city over the last 25 years. So Kim's done more than just create a court. She created opportunities for our young people to lead and learn compassion, understand responsibility, and help one another succeed. Tonight, as she retires after 25 years of service, we honor not only her, but her vision and commitment, but the thousands of lives she's influenced along the way. On behalf of the Kaysville City and the Kaysville Police Department, thank you for your service, your leadership, and your enduring impact on our community. She should have to say something, I think.
Yes.
Just
I really don't know what to say, but when I was thinking about what I would wear tonight to this activity, I thought, why not put on that shirt that I've worn every Wednesday night for the last 25 years? So, yeah, this is my outfit, and I'm going to be sad on Wednesday nights, not reaching in my closet and putting on this youth court shirt, but it's been an honor, and I'm grateful to all of those who have helped me create this vision and then carry it out. And that's definitely been the city council and the police department most of all. So it is a great program, and if you're sitting there and you have no idea what Kaysville Youth Court is, then you probably raised some really good kids and you're doing a really good job. But yeah, it's been a great ride, and I have two very wonderful people that are taking over for me, Randy Von Bozy and Natalie Cutler. They're going to do a great job, and I'm just thankful, and this is a great city that we live in, so thank you. Kennedy, you can come up and take a picture. Chief, give me that one.
Kim, we know you have family here too. Do you want to invite them up?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, well, okay, don't sit down yet. So we have a proclamation for you too as a city council. And basically, Chief went over it, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But just to recognize you for your extraordinary service, we appreciate you. Most volunteers don't last a year, let alone 25. So we're so grateful for you and for your service. Thank you. And we would like a picture with you. Okay.
You don't get the shoes on.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, now it is a time for us to listen to our Kaysville Police Department's annual report. So Chief Oberg is going to present that to us.
Is this working now?
It is.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity tonight to just speak a little bit about our police department and what we've done this past year. I've given you our annual report, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. I won't do a deep dive into the statistics in there unless you would like me to, but generally we're holding pretty steady. For the past several years, we've sat at about 10,000 calls for service each year and roughly 5,000 traffic stops, and that's about where we were this past year too. Some of our crimes have gone up a little bit and some have come down. Most significantly, we saw a big increase in our child abuse and neglect cases. So I'm not really sure what to do about that preventatively, but we do spend a lot of time training and investigating those crimes. Our safety rankings fallen down a little bit for the last probably 3 years. I think we've been number 2 in the state. This past year we're at number 11, but so we've got some room to improve there. But overall, Kaysville is a very safe and secure city and community. With our personnel, the biggest part of our budget and the biggest part of what we do is our personnel. This past year was fairly disruptive for us on our personnel. We lost an officer to another agency over pay. We had an officer we had to terminate, unfortunately, and we had one of our leadership team got a terminal illness and died this past year. So working through that, we've had to hire some new employees to fill those ranks, and one of those employees we also had to terminate. And then on the tail end of that, we had one of our long-serving lieutenants retire as well. So we've had a lot of disruption in the department, but the good news is we've hired some good officers, and I think we're in a good spot. We have 2 in training right now that I think should make it off of training and be good contributors to the city's public safety team. One of the bigger things we we did last year that I'd like to talk about was just the addition of a sergeant position. That's been huge for us, something that we knew we needed for a long time, but until you actually get the position and put them into play, you really don't know how bad you needed it. And that's been huge for us in just trying to do what government should do well, and that's be efficient, effective, transparent, and accountable. And so that's allowed us to improve in all 4 of those areas. So for that, I'm very grateful to this body for that position. Let me see. So that's it as far as personnel goes. The last thing that I put in that packet was just a personnel staffing study. We've been working with a researcher out of North Texas University for the last couple of years to try to put something together, a roadmap or a plan on where we should be. He put together that document. It's a 5-year plan. And I'm pleased to report that I think we are making some good moves in conjunction and consistent with that plan, with that sergeant position last year, and some of the discussion with the part-time records clerk this year. So I think we're moving in the right direction as far as that goes. And unless you have any questions.
You're currently fully staffed, right?
Yes,
That's
yes we are.
great.
Yep, we're fully staffed, and we have what I feel is a very great group.
Thank you. I really personally love the reports, those weekly updates.
Oh.
I think they're fantastic, so thank you.
Yeah, that was something we were trying to figure out. We're always trying to find new ways to communicate with the public. Mm-hmm. And during the hunting season, we were actually having a lot of guns stolen out of cars. I think people going hunting and then maybe forgetting and leaving their firearms in their cars. And we had some gang members, predominantly from Weber County, coming up, and they were just, we lost a bunch of guns in just that short period of time. And so we were trying to figure out, how do we communicate this with the public? We've got to figure out a way to maybe do better about trying to tell the public some of the challenges we're facing and how they can help us. And so that was what we came up with. And I'm glad you like it. I think it's been a well-received addition to one of our programs.
I think it's been great, so thank you for that. And I also wanted to thank you for just engaging the public so much. We've had scooter complaints and electric bike complaints, and you've been so responsive to provide trainings. I don't know that they're well attended, but you're definitely doing a good job communicating that. So we appreciate that a lot.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think we're doing a teaching class in the junior highs. Well, hopefully we've already done that since, today was the last day of school, but hopefully that makes a difference with that population, junior high population.
Thank you. Council, anything?
Mayor,
Sure.
sorry,
Absolutely.
no, you
Councilman Brown?
first.
Councilman
Sure,
Brown?
she addressed me, okay. First of all, I apologize for coming in a little bit late. Hopefully Mayor Tran, okay. And I drove the speed limit. Here.
We all believe that.
Like always, yes.
I hope so, because those young officers.
In my own mind, I was going the speed limit. I wondered if you thought it was an appropriate time, and where we have so many people here, to talk about the stand-in or the stand that's happening at Smith's maybe on Saturday. I just kind of feel like a lot of people don't know about it. I didn't know about it until I spoke to a father that has younger kids, and I felt like this is an important forum to actually notify people so that we can be aware of it.
Yeah, and we're working on a social media post that we're going to put out in conjunction with probably the sheriff's office. But just a crime trend nationally is these large juvenile gatherings, and in some cities, it involves some significant crime, taking over a business and looting it or damaging property. In our city, it hasn't gotten to that point, but we are starting to have some concerns with them. We had one large juvenile gathering a couple weeks ago at one of our businesses. 300 juveniles showed up and started shooting fireworks into the crowd, entering the store, shoplifting. The store had to lock its doors, and it's a safety concern and a security concern. And we're seeing them advertised, not just in, in Kaysville, but all along our area. I know one happened in Layton where some vehicles got damaged and some people got assaulted. Centerville, there was one in Farmington last week, and we're aware of another one scheduled in at Smith's.
Saturday at Smith's, yeah.
Yeah, and one in a park on June 1st. So we'll have some extra presence at that Smith's and try to put out some information tomorrow on social media, just, talking to parents a little bit about the concerns and what's going on, because you may not know what your child is getting involved with. But somebody, we'll put a picture of the firework that was shot into the crowd with that social media post tomorrow, because that is dangerous and concerning, not just for the attendees, but anybody else who's around it in that area.
Yeah, the flyer I saw said, "Bring your fireworks."
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, anyway. I'm glad that you guys are on top of it. I was glad to be able to text you and Chief Ellington and him say, "Oh yeah, we know about it. Do you want to do a ride along that night?" I'm like, maybe not. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. I think it's important.
But it brings to light another, it's difficult for us because the night that they came and took over that one business area, we only had 2 officers out, and they were quickly overwhelmed, and the crowd kind of moved in on them.
Yeah.
So it is concerning. I mean, we talk about personnel as the gift that keeps on giving, because it's an ongoing expense and it's a concern, but at the same time, we have to look at our city as, we're a city of 33,000 people, and we generally have 2 officers on at night, and I don't think that's enough officers, frankly, to be able to adequately protect the lives and property of the city. And I think at some point, hopefully this staffing study is something that we'll consider, and we may need to I just want us to be strategic and mindful of the direction we go, knowing the circumstances or the consequences if we don't.
I think portable sprinklers, if we set those up in the parking lot, might help. But maybe it turns into a pool party.
Yeah,
I don't know.
then it would just be more exciting.
All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, okay, Councilmember Hunt.
Okay, just briefly, Chief, when I was talking to you earlier this year, you brought up the child abuse thing that you kind of highlighted tonight, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's really a sobering statistic. And like you said, it's difficult for our police force really to do like preventive policing on that. It's not like speeding or other things where we can show up and people behave better. And so I guess I just wanted to ask, especially because of the prevention work, well, I don't know how much prevention work I do. I do my best to try to help with the Communities That Care program, trying to help kids have good social involvement. As a city, obviously, we want to try to help prevent child abuse type crimes. Like, do you feel like, I mean, I know there's probably not a lot of statistics around, but do you feel like having a robust Parks and Rec program or having like a community feel helps that at all? Or, and possibly even situations like this, I feel like a lot of our youth are just unmoored and they need something there. Like, do you feel like as a city investing in Parks and Rec is helpful in that way at all?
I do, and like you mentioned, I don't have a study or a statistic in front of me, but a sense of community that can create a strong family unit helps with bedroom communities and the crimes we have. But also, you know what, course I went to recently by the FBI, they compared the influences of children 20, 30 years ago versus now, and it's very, very different on the influences that our youth have. Our youth nationally spend half of their lives online, and that, so that's where a lot of their influences are coming from is online influences and less parental, teacher, even friends. They spend less time with personal friends and more time with online friends, which may, is probably somebody they don't even really know and may not have their best interests at heart. So if we can do things to, get kids out of, get them offline, get them doing other things, getting them engaging with community and their neighbors and things like that, I think it is very good. And I do think that helps the police department with our mission.
And then I just also wanted to say that it was helpful to have the information that the sergeant position's already being helpful. I'm glad that that's working, and also just thanks so much for all your department does. I mean, I've gone on a few ride-alongs, and I mean, I've used the word sobering already tonight, but a lot of the things you guys have to deal with are sobering and well beyond, and I appreciate everything you guys do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson.
I just had a follow-up to the kids that plan to meet in groups and to terrorize some of these businesses or people. Are they from Kaysville? Do you find they're coming in from other cities?
Yeah,
mixed?
it's a mix. We get some kids from our own community, but there's, it goes out on, I think the channel that we've been watching most recently is hosted in Weber County, so you get kids from all over the place. Okay. And so, yeah, maybe the gathering is meant to be just fun, but when you're bringing in all sorts of outside influences and you just don't know what you're going to get. And if they're saying, hey, let's get together and bring all your fireworks and we're going to go into this business, then that gives you an idea that, what they're trying to accomplish.
I would like to propose if there's any Kaysville residents that take part in this and cause damage or hurt other people, I don't think they should be allowed to go through the youth court program. I think they should be held accountable to the fullest extent.
I believe we sent 5 or 6 referrals to the juvenile court on this last incident.
Okay.
Good. Councilmember Blackham, any?
Just want to say thank you. I mean, I'm hard on the budget. I understand, and you guys all know that, and I'm cheap and I'm tight, but I really do appreciate what you do for the city. I really absolutely do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just echo everything everyone else has already said. We do appreciate everything you guys do. It's nice to be in a safe city, and so we do appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And then I've got one more thing. I've got our victim advocate, Jennifer Winchester, here. Mm-hmm. As you know, she operates off of a state-funded grant, and she needs to, in order to maintain that grant, she needs to present tonight as well. So if you'll give her a few minutes, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chief.
Hi, thank you guys for letting me present tonight. I'm just briefly going to go over our programs. I know I've presented in front of many of you before, and you probably saw somebody walking up with me. I've actually got one of the victims that have worked with our program who's actually going to speak with you tonight. I can stand up here with you guys every day and tell you why these programs that we have are valuable. I can show you statistics till I'm blue in the face, but hearing it from a lived experience, I think gives you guys a much different perspective. So, it's just I'll quickly just revisit the programs that we have. We have the VALOR grant, which is the Violence Against Women's Act grant. That program funds our VALOR detective. We currently are funded for 2 years. We're going into our 2nd year. The full fund amount is $79,000. Our VALOR detective is a dedicated detective who investigates crimes for children 11 and up through adulthood, both male and female. His primary purpose is for sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking cases. Currently, we are trending upward in our cases. I think you saw that with our child abuse numbers. Like I said, some of those cases are child as well as adult sexual assaults. Right now, the current year, we're at 155 cases that he's investigated. Well, I'm sorry, 100 right now. That doesn't take into this last quarter. 65 of those were sexual assault, 20 were domestic violence, and 15 were stalking. And a big part of his program is really just making sure that these cases, they are very complex. They require a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of communication with courts, prosecutors, victims, suspects. And out of the 100 cases he's had this year, 13 of those cases have yielded charges for sexual assault. And that is actually a pretty good number. Sexual assaults are one of the cases that don't get a whole lot of prosecution. So he's doing a really good job there. That's just a quick overview of what he does. I'm not going to go through all of that with you guys. I've done it in the past. My program is the Utah Victim Services Provider Grant. I have the only grant in the county that's getting that funding, and we're funded through next year. The full funding amount is $130,000. So my program is a little bit different. I help victims of crime just understand the process, walk them through from initial response all the way through the court process, and typically even afterwards. My program is for all victims of crime, so it's not just domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. However, due to limitations of staffing for myself, there are victims that don't get services. We don't have enough. I have to prioritize cases. As of right now, through quarter 3, I'm at 285 victims served and as of quarter 3, and 6,500 services that we are trending upwards. I'm keeping pretty steady around, it was 389 I ended at last year, and I'm probably going to end up well over 400 this year. So in total, I've worked with over 2,300 victims. So there is definitely a need here in Kaysville. Yes, we are a very safe city, but there is victimization that's happening here, and it's not getting any lower. Again, like I said, I could stand here till I'm blue in the face and tell you guys about this, but I'm going to have Michelle come up. Michelle, I've worked with her since 2023. The strength that survivors have is something that she would probably not tell you she's strong, but I've watched what she's gone through. She's a survivor of domestic violence as well as stalking. And yeah, I'm going to have her come up and talk to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right, as she mentioned, I just wanted to share from the perspective of someone who's had to go through the program and worked with Jennifer coming up on 3 years now. It wasn't just a one-time thing. It ended up being a really long process. But first, I just wanted to give you a kind of a brief background to myself. So I actually grew up with domestic violence, and I lost my mom to it when I was 13. So I was placed in foster homes. And then I was later sent to a family in California. Growing up, my father was so controlling that he didn't let us go to public school, and our education got pretty neglected as well at home. But I started high school, and I worked really hard. I ended up getting accepted into the Air Force Academy. And then a little bit later, I transferred over to BYU, and I graduated from BYU. At my senior year, I ended up with an executive level position at a marketing firm. And it was that same year that I also met my now ex-husband. So you can imagine my deep pain when that marriage ended up being full of coercive control, emotional abuse, and then as time went on, it started to have some physical altercations as well. So despite my many attempts to extricate myself and my 2 young children safely, I kept failing. Then we moved to Kaysville, Utah. That was in February of 2023. It was a very cold morning that I met Jennifer Winchester, the Kaysville Police Victims Advocate. I'd been locked out of our house by my husband after walking our daughter to school because he had also taken my car keys. Our conflict bled onto school grounds, and the KPD resource officer was called. After interviewing us both, Officer Jackson invited me to come speak with their victims advocate. So I agreed, but I honestly didn't have much hope that it was going to help. My interactions with law enforcement had been pretty mixed at that point, but meeting Jennifer and the KPD police officers proved to be my and my children's saving grace. I knew that leaving my husband was going to be difficult, but I truly had no clue. I was completely unprepared for how bad it was going to get. So let's just talk kind of a few ways that Jennifer Winchester and the Victims Advocate Program helped me, as well as the Kaysville Police Department helped my children and I to leave and also to stay safe after we left. So at the first meeting, Jennifer, she listened without judgment, and then she also helped me file protective order documents and then continued to help me navigate that court system. When my ex kept me from attending the protective order hearing, she reached out to check on me after the hearing and warned me about his behavior there. That was probably my first moment where I realized she genuinely cared and she might actually be able to help us. She would always safety plan with me with each new crossroad that we faced. When we were taken into protective custody farther down the road, the program paid for us to stay at a hotel for a few days. We had nothing on us, so Jennifer brought us food, clothes, toiletries, and she even gave the kids some stuffed animals to comfort them. She helped me secure funds to pay for my deposit and the first 2 months of rent, which was a lifesaver because I was only working at that time a contract job, 10 to 15 hours a week, and my ex had gone in and overdrafted all of my accounts. When I found trackers placed by my ex in my vehicle, she and Detective Nicholas came over and installed cameras paid for by the program at our new apartment. I can't tell you just like how touched I was and grateful for that gesture. It was really above and beyond of them. When my ex kidnapped our youngest child from our apartment complex, we were divorced at this point. We had a custody agreement. He was just out playing on a scooter with friends, and he came and just grabbed him. He refused to return him unless I filed documents with the court, changing our custody agreement to be 50-50, and also wrote a letter to the judge saying that I wasn't afraid of him. Jennifer and KPD, they took it very seriously, and they worked tirelessly with me to get him back. It took about 8 days for us to get him returned. All of my cases, because there ended up being a lot, were incredibly complicated. And Jennifer spent hours and hours accompanying me to court hearings, which, if you think about it, looking at her caseload and looking at everything that's going on is pretty incredible. At one of those hearings, my former in-laws showed up and tried to intimidate me, and she immediately placed herself between me and them. She took the initiative to speak to DCFS and the guardian ad litem about my case to help them understand all the nuances, helping to save our children, my children. She researched and helped find an incredible therapy program for me and my children, and despite a long wait list, she was able to get us in. She also filed all the paperwork to pay for that therapy. During our most recent incident, KPD and SWAT had to pull my ex out of my home. He'd come in and walked in through an open back door. She stayed with us until 2 a.m. that day, and then returned the next morning and comforted me as I walked through our destroyed home. For the next 6 months while we were in a small hotel room and it was being repaired, she consistently checked in on us. Walter, who's behind me, is her therapy trained dog, and he's helped my children to feel comfortable at the police station, and he was always a really good distraction during tense or upsetting situations that had landed us back there. One of the other things that made a really big difference, I just wanted to also point out, is Jennifer was consistent about checking in without being pushy. She was blunt when I needed it, and she would tell me how it needed to be said, but she was also very empathetic and intuitive. Because I'd lived in an abusive environment growing up and then in my marriage, my level of tolerance had become very skewed. So she helped ground me and would remind me how abnormal my ex's behavior was, or whenever he would blame me for facing any consequences, and I would start to internalize that blame and feel guilt, she would help remind me that it wasn't my fault. So there's so much more that she's done, but that's a long list, and I know we don't have as much time. But lastly, I just kind of wanted to talk about the Kaysville police officers that work with Jennifer and are domestic violence trained and informed. I can't tell you what it's like to work with an officer that actually understands domestic violence, because I've been with other police officers that didn't, and it was very difficult. But I worked closest with Detective Nicholas when I first met Jennifer, and Detective Seifert later. But many other KPD officers touched our case and helped us, and I'm just forever grateful to every single one of them. So these officers, they always stayed professional as they were investigating, and they took the time to write detailed reports. They listened to hours and hours of recordings and evidence, and those reports were incredibly important to all of my court cases. They are part of the reason I was able to save my kids as well when we left. They showed up to several crucial hearings so that they could be available to testify if called on. When my ex was trying to bully me, well, I have kind of two stories. When my ex was trying to bully me after one of these hearings over a decision regarding the children, Detective Nicholas reminded me of my rights and gave me the courage to stand up to him. This ultimately saved my children a lot of pain and heartache. And another heartwarming moment is while picking me up during another difficult time, they shoveled the snow from my walkway so I could walk to their car. Like, these were little things that just felt so big to me, especially at a time when I was so broken down by everything that was going on. Because of their training, both Jennifer and these officers understood the nuances of domestic violence relationships, and they never once made me feel ashamed or judged while I was working through my complicated feelings with my ex, or through any mistakes I made along the way that put us back in those precarious positions. I can only imagine how they must have felt having to rescue us so much, but they never let it show. In fact, it was the opposite. They were encouraging, and they believed in me that I could do it. They were kind and attentive to the kids, and this built the trust I needed to be able to reach out and turn to them whenever he would do something awful again. They also faced danger on my behalf. My ex became fixated with Jennifer Winchester and Detective Nicholas for helping me, so they faced stalking and threats from him. Their names, especially Jennifer's, came up in court hearings or in evidence recordings almost more than my own. Yet they never wavered in their protection of us or stopped putting themselves on the line. So as I said, there's so much more they've done, but that's just a little piece of it. These success stories like mine, they rarely get the recognition they should. They don't make it to the news. My news story would be much different if I had never met them. But I know without a shroud of doubt that if I hadn't met them, it would have been a different story for us. So having participated in these programs in other states and other parts of Utah, I just hope that everyone here realizes just how truly incredible and unique this particular Victims Advocate program is. I honestly wish we could clone it and put it in every police department in Utah or in the nation, honestly. Kaysville is just really special. It's always going to be really special to me. So thank you again for letting me share my experience with the Victims Advocate program.
Good job, Walter.
Thank you, Michelle, for speaking. Honestly, that's where I'm going to close off. I don't think I could do anything better than what she just talked to you guys about. Are there any questions for us?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. That's incredibly brave, and I'm so proud of you. And Jennifer, I know firsthand the great work that you do. So thank you. And Chief Oberg, thank you for bringing the program to us here in Kaysville. We're very lucky, and it is a special program that I wish could be replicated. And we want to make sure that we keep you here, though, for as long as we can, forever. So, Councilmember Jackson.
So the grant is on a 2-year cycle. Does it end in 2 years? Do you have to reapply for it, or how does that work?
Yes, I reapply for it every 2 years.
Okay.
The funding, part of the reason I stand in front of you guys every year and send those reports that I send is because funding is shrinking just like everything else. It goes away. And so the big part is to get you guys to understand, like, when you're looking at these numbers, the people behind the numbers in the program, what is actually happening, because right now I think for my program, the city is covering maybe 38% of it. It's not a huge number on it. But yeah, each year that number is decreasing. Funds are, like everywhere, just getting lower and lower.
Well, I would like to offer, like, any support that the council can give in that regard when you apply for the grant funding. And also, it was mentioned that donations were helpful. Is there a place where the community can donate? How can we be helpful to you in supporting you in this work?
I've gotten some donations. Actually, if she's gonna hate me for this, but when Michelle got back on her feet, she actually has made a few donations to give back herself. So I do have a fund set up that I put aside that I can utilize for emergencies like hotels. Because yes, we do have community resources like Safe Harbor that can put people in, but those are not always the safest option. In Michelle's case, it was not the safest option for her, and it can pay for other things. So if that's something someone's interested in, they can just reach out to me and I can walk them through that process.
Could people drop off donations like at the police station? Or, I mean, I would love as a city if we could, send out notifications, have a drop-off spot, have items that are needed, or just however we can be helpful.
I do keep an item list on the website. Honestly, the things that are most needed are, gas cards, gift cards, things like that, things that I can use for victims when they are in crisis. And tangible items are harder to store, right? Like she mentioned, I got clothes, but sometimes, we can't really keep those, or you get kids that are different sizes and things. So really, money is the thing that is the most needed.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks for all the work that you do. And this was really helpful hearing that story, and it's tremendous, and just applaud the bravery and strength. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Michelle, for being here, and thanks, Chief, for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so our next presentation is by Paul Belknap, community presentation regarding open space. And then I just by way of housekeeping, we have people here who are obviously here for reasons. We want to make sure that we're respectful to people who speak. So please do hold your applause and outbursts or reactions so that we can make sure that everyone feels comfortable here in our room. Okay? Thank you. Oh, looks like 2 people left their phones. Maybe probably. Thanks. Thanks, Councilmember Adams. Okay, thanks, Melinda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. Paul Belknap. I live on Sunset Drive and have for the last 45 years, and has been voiced in various ways tonight how much we love our city and are grateful to have raised our family here. So I want to start by saying that I am thankful to Symphony Homes. They have built and enhanced and established a community, several communities in West Kaysville that become part of what I think West Kaysville is. And so I commend them for that. I think it's important that I start there because in doing that, what they have done and what other developers have done that have created a community, we, under the statute of this city, are entitled to have that maintained, protected, and preserved. Now, in going forward, Symphony and its developments that I'm going to touch on in a few minutes, knew that it was developing in areas according to the general plans that started in the early 2000s that in West Kaysville it would be 0 to 2 units per acre. They knew that, and they developed their properties within those confines that are currently built out in their areas and involve zones of RA of 21,000 approximately square feet, R120 of 20,000 square feet. And we now have under our current general plan a statement that reminds us that general plans establish a future vision for 20 or 30 years or more. So when the general plan started that created the community in West Kaysville, that was a vision, and it's now maintained. And in the 2019 plan, it indicated that in regard to housing, that there would in West Kaysville be allowed similar housing densities in existing neighborhoods. So Symphony bought the current property that's the subject of this hearing tonight, knowing that that area was zoned a combination of RA, R120, A1, and A5. I've given you a handout, and the black line above the black line on that page comes from this city's zoning code, Chapter 17-12-1, under purpose. And I've highlighted the first sentence. The purpose of the zoning is to provide for areas in appropriate locations where quiet, low-density residential neighborhoods may be established, maintained, and protected. That is what has occurred and that Symphony has been part of in its various developments. Below the black line is a page from the report of the community development that was put together and touching on surrounding land use and zoning. It talks about adjacent properties, and I don't want to get nitpicky, but what it says is there's a handful of single-family homes. Well, there are homes that back up directly to this property in the Sunset Equestrian Estates. There are homes across Sunset Drive. There's the Stenquist home, and there's the other homes that are in that area. There are more than a handful. It then lays out that on the north, south, east, and west, there is a combination that surrounds this property of R120, RA, A1, and A5. If you look at the developments on the south end of West Kaysville, the Sunset Equestrian Estates is RA, or R120. If you go up Western Drive and cross the rail trail, there's approximately 30 acres that has been developed years ago that is R120. Now the question came up at the last hearing that a lot of the lots that are in the Sunset Equestrian Estates and also those on the east side of the rail trail are smaller than half acre, and that's correct. And the reason that is that there was and continues to be in the code and the abilities to get a credit for open space, which is a critical thing that I'm going to touch on in a few minutes. Because as this development in the Sunset Equestrian Estates that goes right down and borders this property, there was a significant credit given so that lots could be smaller than a half acre. In fact, if you add in the equestrian center that's approximately 17 acres, and if you add the trails and the other things that have been developed, there's approximately 25 acres of open space that enhances the community. Now, I am sitting here not in a prideful way, but grateful way, that our family was involved in that. You would find my signature on a change to the plan of the part of Sunset Equestrian Estates that Symphony built out, with us approving a change in the trail system and a change in the open space. And I think it's added tremendously to our community and what they've done, and I commend them for it. We did that as a family at a personal expense so that it would be a nice development. So with that, there has been and is, as we speak, neighborhood that has been established, maintained, must be maintained and protected. Now, I want to specifically talk about a couple of things in regard to the open space, and then I have some photographs that I want to quickly go through. When Woodside Homes that started Sunset Equestrian Estates went bankrupt, ultimately, Symphony purchased a large piece of property from that process. And came to the city, and Symphony was ready to develop that, and I'm grateful to the city that the city said, yes, we want you to do that, but part of the requirement for this development was to do the equestrian center. What existed at that time that Symphony bought all their property was all of the buildings were sitting on the ground at the equestrian center, stacked up. The metal, the roofs, the walls, everything else was stacked up down there and had not been assembled. And the city took the position that the equestrian center must be built. That was part of the agreement. It was part of the open space credit. And Symphony couldn't begin until that agreed upon project was built. And so we got a hold of Jeff and Susie Hansen. They became interested. They bought that. Jeff, as a contractor, built. He took those products and he built the equestrian center. So I would like to ask my colleague, Melinda, if you could help me with some photographs. This is a picture facing north in an area that Symphony came to us and the other people that had to sign off and said, we want to rearrange some of the open space. And they talked me through it. I said, it sounds like a good idea. And so now there is a very beautiful open space and a trail that if you go down there on a school morning or a school afternoon, it makes a community. It connects a community. It's full of children getting to school. It's full of other people. There's other courts and things there. And it adds. And it is the basis why I'm trying to be professional here and not emotional, but it is the basis why this statute that is part of the city saying that these established neighborhoods must be maintained and protected. So if I could have Melinda, please, if you could go to the next photograph. That's just another picture closer showing this area of open space that Symphony did. Next picture, please, Melinda. A swimming pool for the community. And the next picture, please. And finally, the trails, when they get down to the north end, there's a trail that goes to Snow Horse. There's a trail that goes to the junior high school. And Symphony put this in as a concluding part of that trail system, for which we're appreciative. Melinda, if you could please go to, starting with this photograph you've got, we are now at the south end of the Sunset Equestrian Estates. This is a trail that hooks into a group of trails that access the Sunset Equestrian Center. And also, it's paved in part and it's got dirt in part so that horses and people can use these to connect this community. If you could take me to the next picture. This is Western Drive. We're looking basically east up Western Drive. And a significant part of the trail goes up Western Drive. If you could take me to the next picture. This is a trail sitting, looking from Western Drive north that connects to other parts of the Sunset Equestrian Estates. And the next, please, Melinda. And this is part of that same trail that crosses Western Drive and goes south. Goes down through that subdivision and connects that as a means of connecting that neighborhood and making a feeling of connectedness. And for which Symphony and Woodside got credit for open space so that the lots and the configuration they wanted to build could be done. Please, the next picture. Now, I'm going to kind of digress for a minute. This is 550 West looking north. This is a street that's got to happen, but it is not a street, in my opinion, if I were living on this street, that I would be excited about the number of travel cars and trips that are going to take place on this street if the size of this development and the density of this development happens. I say to my colleague from Symphony, Matt, you have been asked, we as a community have asked, what is the rest of this development for Horizon, a joint venture, the other 38 acres, and the Equestrian Center, which we personally don't believe ought to be disassembled. But what's the plan for that? And why are you so connected and desirous of having a 6,000 square foot zoning change when the history is what I've laid out? Now let me take, please, to the next photograph. This is a trail connection that's looking west, standing on Sunset Drive, that goes down into the Symphony part of the development and connects this neighborhood. The next one, please, Melinda. This goes up behind the mayor's house and connects to the rail trail. And what's lacking in anything that we have seen as a community is any connectedness to what Symphony is planning on the south end of our community in terms of trails, in terms of open space. And I think it's a significant need and should be part of the consideration for what they're asking. Now, if you could please take me to the next photograph. This is a Symphony development called Quail Hollow. You access what we're looking at off of Flint Street. It's a beautiful open space area with a trail system that goes around through there. Symphony did this so they got an open space credit, and so some of their lots do not equal a half acre because they got a credit for building this open space at Quail Hollow. The last thing, Melinda, if you could please show us the next photograph. One of your colleagues on the Planning Commission who's donates her time and I'm sure is very serious about what she tries to do along with all the other members of the commission, said in one of the hearings, I live at Hill Farms and my home sits on 7,000 square foot lot. There are some lots in the Hill Farms that are 7,000. There are many lots that are up over 20,000. But what's significant at Hill Farms, if you go to the next picture as well, Melinda, is there is 7 acres of open space. You don't feel like you're standing between two houses and you can touch the walls of your neighbors. It feels open, and this is zoned R14. Now, in letters that we have written, and in meetings with Matt and others from Symphony, we have indicated we are willing to discuss and we are willing to try and solve this in a meaningful way, including 14,000 square feet, if there can be some open space and some other things, even higher density lots west of 550. If we can see what the plan is for the rest of the development. Recently, in some posts that the governor of our state put in after agitated people in Box Elder County came, the governor made it very clear. It is clear to us that there needs to be more transparency so that the public knows what's going on. We don't have that here. We don't know what's going to happen next, but I can tell you, in my opinion, we are at a hinge point for those of us that live in West Kaysville because of the 38 acres, the equestrian center, 17 acres, and 50 or 60 additional acres off of Angel Street that we don't know what's going to be requested there. We are at a hinge point. And what's done here is extremely important to me and from everyone I've talked to, very significant. Now, in your code, chapter 19-1-1, dealing with subdivisions, it says, any proposed subdivision and its ultimate use shall be in the best interests of the public welfare and the neighborhood development. Now, I have brought this up before, but there has been added to a draft done by Symphony of the development agreement for Horizon East. And on page 5, subparagraph E, they have put in this paragraph that is entitled Findings of Compatibility. In adopting this agreement, the city hereby expressly finds that the development of the community in conformance with this agreement promotes the creation of a desirable residential community in an appropriate location. The city further finds that the development of the community in conformance with this agreement will not violate the general purpose, goals, and objectives of the city. I do not agree with that, and I do not believe that that is supported in any way and is an attempt, without being pejorative, to simply bootstrap something that I do not believe is true. So my ask is that there be a vote taken and that vote be no as to the request for rezone. I acknowledge to Matt that he has some larger lots that are in his current proposal, but it is missing the things that I have touched on, and it will affect what I've tried to touch on as we go forward with the request for 6,000 square foot lots. with the permission of the mayor and without any clapping or noise, there are many people that were not able to come tonight, Mayor, because it's the graduation of Farmington High School. And with your permission, and I'll ask for forgiveness if it's inappropriate, but for those that are here, if you would be willing to stand or raise your hand if you are opposed to what Symphony is requesting. I want to stop where I started. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I know there's other people that want to talk, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being so respectful, everybody. Appreciate that. Okay, conflicts of interest, Kaysville Council. Do we have anything to declare? Nope. Okay. We'll move on to item number 5A, consent items. Would someone like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve consent item 5A, approval of acquisitions and transfer of property related to the Thornfield Road Storm Drain Culvert Project.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion to the motion? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll start down here. Councilmember McBride.
Aye. Oh, did you say?
I decided to start down here with the vote.
Which
yeah.
way are you moving, that way?
We're going this way. Mike, yeah. Sorry, I shook it up a little bit.
Aye.
Making sure everyone's awake.
Wait, who's next?
It's you.
Oh,
Wait, we went this way?
We're going
Okay,
this way.
aye.
Aye.
okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, let's move on to action 6A, request to rezone 14.7 acres at approximately 1820 South Sunset Drive from RA and A1 to R110 and R16 for Symphony Homes. Melinda.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep it relatively brief tonight and just kind of go over, I think we're all very familiar, this is the area we're speaking about. The future land use map and the general plan does show this to be single-family residential. One of the things that has kind of evolved, although we didn't change the agenda language, is that the current request from the applicant is for R110 zoning. And this is the most current layout that has been submitted. Just want to go over some details, and then I wanted to show, Councilmember Jackson requested that we kind of show the last iteration from March compared to this one. So that's, next slide will show that. But there's 40 single family lots that are being proposed. The average of size of those lots is 12,649 square feet. The lot sizes range between 7,200 square feet and almost up to 20,000. That equates to a density of 2.8 units per acre. And there are public roads. This matrix down here just shows how many of those lots, if they were to be assigned to the individual zoning based on lot size, what those would be. So there's 12 that are at 14,000 square feet, 18 at 10,000, 8 that fall within 8,000 or above, and then 2 at 6,000. So here's just a side-by-side comparison of the two versions. The most current one is on the left, and then that matrix just shows this current version does have, again, 5 fewer lots, but also the lot sizes have been increased quite a bit. I believe the average size in the last version was about 10,000 square feet. And some of the comments that had come in the last few days had questions about water, so I did want to just leave this slide in from the last presentation, but we do have adequate culinary water to serve this development. This is a new part of the general plan that was adopted by the council in December, and the state has actually required that cities put into general plans how land use will be impacted by water and the availability of water. So the development agreement, if the council chooses to approve this, Development agreements do become binding. We record those against the property. It runs with the land and essentially becomes zoning code for the property as it gets developed. Again, they're requesting R110, the 40 lots, and then the development agreement does specify that there would not be any lots under 7,000 square feet. Further, there's fencing that would be provided as depicted in the plan. There's landscaping requirements, phasing. We talked about this last time as well, but fire code does not allow for more than 30 units to be constructed unless there's 2 points of ingress egress. So the development agreement would limit that. Fire code would as well. And then all intersections would be designed to meet AASHTO standards. There are some changes also in the setbacks from the last version, and those setbacks are now proposed to be for both lots that would be over 10,000 square feet as well as under would be 25 feet with a variation of 20 feet to the front porch of a home. For lots under 10,000 square feet, the side setbacks are proposed to be 5 feet and 5 feet for a total of 10. The lots above 10,000 square feet would be 6 and 14, or excuse me, 6 and 8 for a total of 14. Rear setbacks would be 15 feet, and the corner setbacks would also be 15 feet on both lot sizes. This was recommended by the Planning Commission to be approved. That was under the prior version that was the R110 and R16. So that was all I had for the council this evening. I was always happy to answer any questions, and we do have the applicant here this evening that I know has some slides and information he wanted to share with the council as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Melinda. We do have a couple people signed up to speak to this first. We have, let's see, action item 6. Okay, so we have Paul, Jason Gagner, hopefully I said that correctly, Allison Steinquist, Dave McSwain, and Ken Wilson. So if you'll come up in that order, you'll have 3 minutes to speak to us. Paul Belknap, would you like to speak again? You're good? Okay, so we'll move on to Jason.
Evening, Jason Gagne. I've lived in the community for just over 7 years. I'm still a newbie compared to most in that community. Just gives an example of how dedicated and cohesive that group is. The concerns that I have here, other than the fact that I don't want the land developed, is the fact that as much as we want to praise and commend Symphony for their professionalism and their success over the years, we're in this over 4 years, and we still can't get an actual true plan. And if you're a professional organization and you've been doing this, and this is your business, you would think we'd actually have a plan by now that conforms with the community, with what we've asked for, and doesn't leave us a legacy of serious issues. I'm grateful that the plan will not consume all of our water. That's a bonus. But what is not mentioned, what has been brought up in the planning commissions, is that the pipes are not large enough to carry the volume needed to maintain the water pressure at the homes. It doesn't take into effect the fact that the wind that we have that blows through there, the number of roofs and sidings that we had to replace from wind damage and things like that, with that high density and the closeness of that. If there's a spark in there, that's not one house that has a fire, that's gonna spread easily. It wasn't long ago where that marshland was on fire and ash was raining down on my house and I was hosing off my roof. If we have that again, which is possible with the dry season and everything else we have, who's going to be there to contend with that if we add all those other homes and they're that close to each other with the winds that we have? Plus, we are already at stretch limits with our police department, our fire department, which we're trying to work through. This is not providing any of that. And I want to know where Symphony is going to be with the increased congestion and when a child gets hit riding their scooter or crossing the road or trying to get to school. They're not going to be there for that either. This is not going to make our community better. It's going to be a golden calf for Symphony. And they're looking at an excessive revenue off of this, I'm sure, right, with $100 million plus deal of a project here. But it's gonna leave us as a city in debt, fixing the issues that come down from the legacy planning that's already there. And so I'm just asking you to think about not what their benefit is, because everything they've provided, from more housing, affordable housing, opening up the housing market, all of those promises have been broken. They've already lied to the citizens, buying the land from them and their commitments, and they're changing contracts. So it's just not a group that we should be doing business with on this project if that's the way they're gonna work for this long, and we still can't get an answer.
Thank you. Allison?
My name is Allison Stenquist, and I live on Sunset Drive at 1864, and my home is adjacent to the development. And I've lived in Kaysville now since 1985, and do love this community. And I do not love speaking publicly. However, I did want to thank this body for hearing and listening to your constituents. And I also want to acknowledge how fortunate I am that I can come before you, who are the elected officials who are more closely connected to me and all of us here than any of our other elected officials. Thank you for what you do. Some of what I say may be repetitive, and I'm sorry for that. I think Paul Belknap did a great job in going over the zoning in the area. And I think when one considers the changes to the area from, RA1 to A1 zones down to even R10, those are significant changes. And I know in the past I have talked about my interactions with Symphony, and I would like to review that one more time, because my husband and I did meet with an owner of Symphony Homes and other employees of Symphony Homes to discuss the sale of our property and their plans for development. And it was indicated to us that it would be half-an-acre lots along the frontage, the east part of the development, and then a minimum of a fourth to a third acre lots as the property moved to the west. And partly because of that, Lee and I and his siblings chose to sell the property to Symphony Homes. And I have also mentioned that they were very forthright with us for the first year or so after the purchase of that property. Symphony Homes initiated two meetings with the neighbors to review what their plans were, and those were consistently half-acre lots during those meetings when that rezone was initially submitted and then, very quickly withdrawn. That's my 3 minutes, so actually I need to stop right now.
If you can summarize. That would be
Okay,
great.
summarize, okay. This is back on, okay. So I think that after that time, the transparency that we enjoyed with Symphony, we lost that. And that's something that I regret, and I think that is partly why this process now, today, I find there is a sixth plan that's been presented, and none of us, at least that I'm aware of, knew before this meeting that the rezone was changing again to R110. So I think that is a significant thing. And I also, in that plan that was up here, the Lisby's lot, which is directly to the north of me, has 6 lots that surround that 1 acre lot. And when one considers the impact of a new development on the neighbors, that's a huge impact. But and I also concur with the need for open space. I would love it if there were a conservation easements in Kaysville where there was an opportunity to preserve agricultural property. It's something that I would have loved to have done if that had been available. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to reduce mine down. I feel like I'm giving a talk in primary. I specifically asked if I could come after Allison because in our last council meeting here that I was at, Matt continually referred to this as a preserve type development. There's 2 reasons for that. One is Symphony not only told Allison that the lots on Sunset would be half acres, Sunset also took 8 or 9 couples over to the preserve, to a house, and gave us an idea of what type of house they would be building on those half-acre lots across from us at Sunset. As I can see in this thing, the council asked them if they wouldn't honor the agreement they made with Allison and Leland. And from what I could see that was presented tonight, that still hasn't been honored, nor does it look like they have any intention to do so. Now, I will say, Matt, we're getting closer. I think 6 or 7 more revisions and we'll be there. The other thing I would like to do for one of our other members here is, I really agree with what Paul presented tonight, although I'm not as eloquent as Paul, but the open space is important. There is a development down there called the Bridle Up Hope. And I attended their open house and I work with them in another calling that I have. And I think if any of you have taken time to go down there and see the good that they do for women of all ages, as they work through, God, I feel like I'm from this lady with the police department here, but as they work through some physical and mental issues, and they rebuild their lives down there and help them in those difficult situations. I think if we really wanted to plan community, some of the trails and some of the abilities that attach the Sunset Equestrian subdivision would be a great idea so that business could thrive down there. I have been in too many situations where I've seen housing get clearance to be built around areas that have livestock or industry, and it basically becomes a genocide. It's not too long before they don't like the flies, they don't like the smell, they don't like the animals, they're afraid they're gonna bite their kids. And I just think we need to do a little bit more to protect those that are trying to protect the lives of other people. And outside of that, I'm gonna not read any more of this, but I would like to remind the council of the last thing that they cleared next to us, which is the Crested Peak one, just less than a half a mile north of us, doesn't have a single lot that's not almost a half acre in it. And I think that ought to be considered. I don't see any difference between the development by us and that one up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Thank you for your time, City Council. About 12 years ago, we moved in one of the Symphony, and they had us sign a whole bunch of agreements to keep and support money for the swimming pool, the hiking trails, the various things that we do. And I'm willing to do that. I don't think we ought to change the concept that we have. I realize that the more houses you can put in a given area, maximize the profit to the developer. And I do have family members who do that sort of thing. But I think it's appropriate that they keep process that we now have and the subdivision. I don't think we're going to prevent development of subdivisions, but we need to keep the atmosphere that's currently there. Being a bicycle rider, if you go down Sunset to that roundabout, that is a harrowing expense for a guy on a bicycle because of the cars and how fast they go. Any addition to that will only increase the problems that's already existing. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, everyone, for participating. All right, council. Oh, Matt, we'll invite you up.
Matt Loveland, I represent Symphony Homes tonight. And Melinda, if we're able to pull up that presentation.
Oh, that's what it's going to be.
Nice beach.
We all needed that.
Clicker thing.
Perfect. I won't belabor the past too much because I'm looking at a go forward. However, we have lost the monitor. Okay. We started at a master plan community working with Ivory, the Hansons, and then the controlling properties that Symphony owns. Gone through several different rezones, starting from an RM with an R16, going to an R16 entirely, R16 with R10, 2 iterations. That was what was ultimately approved by Planning Commission without private streets, which is between the February and March. And at last council, we reviewed this final plan with an R110 and an R16. So trying to look through where did we go. I have extensively reviewed our commentary as well as different comments to date. And this is what I have extrapolated from our last conversation from March 19th. So just my homework items, I'm bringing them back, so I want to hit these as quick as I can. So the prior plan, 45 units, 29 of those in the R110, and then 16 of them in the R16 zone. Primary items, there's 3 big categories. First one, transition and design. So 550 West, connection to Angel, show the overall plan, show open space for the overall plan. Lot sizes, look at increasing them above the 10,000 square foot size, reduce density and make lots bigger, make planning smaller lots further to the west, review backyard size on smaller lots, and then front yard setbacks and 20-foot driveways were a talking point, potential 30-foot driveway along Sunset Drive, and then considering larger side yard setbacks. So the perception of what Symphony owns versus what was presented at one point with additional applicants is I need to clear it up. Everything in blue is what Symphony Homes owns or has any interest or stake in. Anything outside of that is outside of our control, outside of our planning boundary. So what I'm going to show tonight is what we intend to do and some of our aspirations as we continue forward. So 550 West connection to Angel Street. For the community, there's been a lot of different movements and involvements. It is safe to say we are going to be able to connect one way or another 550 West to Angel Street during the life of project. The how we get there, there's details that are still being worked out, but that connection, the council has decided that will happen. Symphony's in full support to see that through. So, open space. With the potential addition of the sewer district sliver parcel, our west side, we have additional open space planned within this community. We have intentionally tried to put it in different areas where we can have trail systems within this. You'll notice along 550 through there, that it calls for a 66-foot road. There's a 50-foot parcel owned by the city, and so there's 16 feet of required right-of-way that needs to be dedicated from someone. In every development application, you put it on center line, so the east side would dedicate 8, the west would dedicate 8, in order to, again, try and work with some of our neighbors down there and limit the impact to Bridal Up Hope. Symphony has opted to put all 16 feet entirely on our property on the west side in order to preserve him, the Jensen's operation. Within that right-of-way, we have also will continue to propose a 55-foot road in terms of the asphalt width. However, the opportunity that comes out of that within that 66-foot area is a 10-foot trail, designated specific for equestrian use, and a 6-foot asphalt trail that would connect from the existing stub at Seabiscuit down to Angel Street. Additionally, within our community, we plan to have the trailheads and different connection points. The east side, if approved as presented in the application, what that does is it'll lock the intersection at 550, and that creates an opportunity. Out of that, it's about a 40-foot parcel that runs the entire length of Bridal Up Hope. Within that area, what we plan and would like to do, assuming the east side approval, is create a buffer in order to, again, try and mitigate that impact on their operation. One of the goals that I personally have is to try and build this community so that Bridal Up Hope looks as if it was done by Symphony Home. It's not a bolt-on or we planned around. I want it to be seamless all the way through. So with the combination of burdening our entire property with the 16 required feet for 550, in addition to trying to work through some of these different trail connections and the likelihood of any of our homeowners having horses is low. However, we are going to continue investing in equine trails specifically for Bridal Up Hope. That way they can tie into the existing Sunset Equestrian Trails system. So what we, as presented last time, we have 2 different product types. We started with 4. We had townhomes attached. We had a detached rear load single family. Both of those are no longer in our proposal or trajectory, on which we have 2 different homes that we actively build in Davis County. The right, so the yellow lots on the far east, as well as the bordering lots up against Sunset Equestrian, those are our preserve style homes. They would be on lots ranging from 12 to 14,000 square feet. And then the lots in the kind of that orange color, those would be ranging anywhere from 6,000 up to 9,000 square feet, though the application tonight is restricted to 7,000 specific to the plan. The west side has not been vetted in an explicit detail. It's not part of the application. However, if the east side is approved as presented, this is the Symphony would submit an application that would mirror this. So going through lot sizes, the prior plan was just under 11,000 square feet on average, so 10,995, 2.8 units per acre, and then the 45 lots. With the adjustments, we have increased the lot size. That has shifted up the overall size of all the lots, as well as decreased the total unit count. So 2.5 units per acre, and then orange and yellow averages out to 12,650. The next item was the backyards. In the previous plan, we had 105 foot deep. They were 60 feet wide. In this new design, we have them at 130. I will say there's one in there that's 126 on one side, but then it's greater on the other. So but they are averaging or far exceeding 130 because there's also several in there that go close to 150 foot deep. So we have made the lots both larger and deeper as requested. The setbacks. So if the council feels it's appropriate, Symphony's okay putting in the motion in addition to the development agreement that any lots fronting Sunset Drive would maintain the 30-foot driveway. That way we can cohesively fit in with all drives that front Sunset Drive. Working over, we have 2 different lot sizes. It's designated as sub 10,000 square feet or greater than 10,000 square feet. The less than 10,000 square feet, I'll speak on in more detail. But in our last proposal, we had a 20-foot front yard setback that has now been modified to be a 25-foot driveway. And then we discussed an allowance for porch intrusions in order to break up the street facade. So that remains at the 20. However, we would have full-length driveways. Melinda, do you mind going to the next page? Thank you. So on the side yards and our smaller 8,000 square foot average lots. So I have heard 5-foot side yards. This is what is the perception that I'm trying to propose. And I just want to show and also set the record straight for the community and everyone here what my intention is versus what the perception is. So on the bottom right here, all of these homes are scaled out. Again, the concern is we don't want this facade of just, it looks like row housing, right? So you'll notice in our plan, every street has a curve in it. That's intentional. That is an expense on the land side, but what it does, because you pick up additional manholes and different things, it's unnecessary. However, a byproduct of that is you get a curve in the street, the homes will separate, getting a pie shape and it creates a more varying streetscape. With these homes that are planned for the 8,000-ish average lots. So every one of these is a plan that we are actively building and would desire to build in Kaysville. 25-foot based off of, again, lot 40 is a 70-foot wide lot, lot 39, 56 and 9 inches, and so on. So we will not have 10 feet with a 2-car execution. So why am I asking for 5 feet? Because we can put 3rd-car garages on every single one of these. So, or at least have the option for a future homeowner to be able to do that. In the very least, it's an expansion opportunity for sweat equity. You can put it on later, should you choose. And then within this, so the 5-foot side yard, it is to accommodate not a bigger home, wall-to-wall, 2-story. It is to accommodate our homes, yes. However, the pickup here is the 3rd-car ability within this. The livability, talking about streets and, parking, everything. 3rd-car garages are a good thing to have in the community. We would like to be able to offer those. With this, the community open house we hosted back last January. We gathered a bunch of input, and it's been interesting trying to implement feedback from that into an actual plan. But I just want to show this cottage single family, because this is the thing that stood out to me the most. Honestly, I did not think that this would be the response to it, but I don't know where those 15 people are. I wish they were sitting with me tonight, but within that, Kaysville can have more than just a half-acre lot. Our homes, they're custom homes. These are not production homes. We are a custom home builder. And polling the residents, the receptiveness was don't do urban towns, luxury towns, working up. It started to move, so. I have a lot more prepared, however, I've presented what I need to as well. And so with that, I'll open for discussion. Any questions the council might have?
Thanks, Matt. Okay, who has questions?
Quick question.
Councilmember Adams.
Hey, thanks, Matt. And also, we haven't had a chance to thank you, Paul, for your preparation. I guess I should say Mr. Belknap. That's not very polite of me. Matt, help us understand why you wouldn't want this development to be part of the Sunset Equestrian Estates. I think one of the things that Mr. Belknap addressed was how incredible a job Symphony did with the trail system, with the building of the community, and it seemed like there was an underlying tone of, we want you to continue to produce, and you've already addressed somewhat, what you're doing there. I guess, what is inhibiting you from just continuing the equestrian estates? And I know that's maybe a question that you weren't prepared to answer, so I hope that's not pulling you too much off the fly, but just curious about the answer to that.
I was hoping someone would ask.
Okay.
So Mr. Belknap did a fantastic job. These forums are not easy to present in, and he did a very good job communicating his message with the desire. A couple points to add on to that. So I think it is hard sometimes to extrapolate scale. Our small lots are high density. Those are 0.2 acre lots. With this Sunset Equestrian, I have some stats if the community would like, because we have been a builder in there. So comparing open space, trails, Sunset Equestrian is 229 acres in total, excluding the equestrian site on the west of our property.
Real quick, is that including the park?
Yes, it
okay,
does.
Cool. Okay, 229.
Yes.
Okay.
229 acres. There is 22.74 acres of open space. There is 12,373 plus or minus linear feet of trail, and there are at least approved 496 homes within that community. For Horizon, with what you're looking at here and what Symphony owns and can commit to with this body, we have 32 acres. The green, excluding Bridle Up Hope up there, the green shown on our property is 3.22 acres. So as a comparison, Sunset Equestrian was 9.8% open space dedicated relative to overall size. We're at 10, so we'll just call it par. With the trails drawn on here, tying into the trails built with Sunset Equestrian, there's 4,412, and that does not include the little stubs into the cul-de-sacs. So again, just trying to extrapolate something that is meaningful between a 230 acre project versus my 15 and soon to be 30 acre application. 1 acre in Sunset Equestrian yielded 54 linear feet of trail. with what's drawn up here, and then I'm committing to, assuming the east side is approved as proposed, is 137 linear feet per developable acre. So that has a 2.5 times increase in trails, as well as the same percentage of open space. I think another thing to point out, this is land use. We're talking about what type of zone we can continue to plan within. I'll point out that the development agreement does not state there is no open space requirement. It's silent on it because it defaults to code. I still will be held to the same standard that we have built every other project within and was also shown earlier. I'm just not asking for a deviation for the plan. So showing, I don't know if that answers your entire question, but I think.
No, I think that's actually
perspective.
Really fantastic perspective. Part of the reason that I was curious about it, and maybe we'll have in our discussion, is that at one point in time, the equestrian center was included as open space for the Sunset Equestrian Estates. And then, like, somehow, Mike and I are still trying to figure it out. Mysteriously, it stopped being included as open space. But it was at one point in time part of the Sunset Equestrian Estates open space total. And so I part of me is curious if you continued, or what are the reasons you wouldn't want to be part of that same HOA or same development? Because it seems like then you could tie that back in and actually take advantage of 10 acres of open space that is no longer being taken advantage of, assuming that the equestrian center stays under the development agreement, which I will die on my sword doing. But if you're saying like it doesn't make sense to be part of that HOA or part of that same building opportunity, then I would understand why. I guess that was just kind of.
There's more benefit for us to join the HOA because there's 2 existing pools. There's amenities there. We don't feel that that is fair for us to bolt on with that. And so specifically just to preserve what we partially sold along with other builders, we would elect to set up an entirely separate HOA and then amenitize according to our future homeowners.
You could throw in a couple extra pools. Now we'll have it happening. Yeah. I'm just, okay, thank you, that makes sense.
Yep.
Matt, the dark gray area, so who owns that property? Is that Ivory?
On the on the left side, that is Susie and Jeff Hansen.
Right,
that's the Hansens.
Right, and then behind.
Actually, I have a pointer. So this is the Hansens right here. So that's the facility itself. This piece right here is Ivory Homes. This is Paul Morley, and then this is Merrill Sheriff, and then Sewer District, as we know.
Okay. That's what I thought. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Councilmember Blackham. Oh, I thought you were green.
Go ahead.
Okay, McBride.
Okay, I just have a couple quick questions.
Please.
First is, I don't know if this is an item that we're continuing to work on, or if you're looking for an approval, because I was under the impression last time we talked that we were waiting for the absolute go-through on 550 before we move forward with an approval on this project. Is that not the case anymore? Anyone know that?
That is not my understanding or impression at all, which is why I've restricted my development to the 29 units off the single access. However, if and likely when the connection happens, then that would alleviate that restriction. So I am planning as if it never happens, and that's how I crafted the development agreement. But I remain steadfast in figuring it out with the city.
So right now, you're just looking for approval on 29 lots? Is that what you're looking, is that?
No, that is all that I could construct and
Okay.
receive a building permit. There are 40 planned homes within the easterly 15 acres though. So I can only build a portion of them though. It's quite traditional with development to phase. And so if there's 4 phases within this, I could only build the first 2 or 3, and at which point I would be stopped until secondary access is figured out.
Okay. The other question I was, and maybe this is just my thought, is cul-de-sacs are nice. I live in a cul-de-sac, and I love living in a cul-de-sac. But one issue that we continually run into is snow removal and where to put it, and parking, and all sorts of issues in our cul-de-sac, because no one knows how to park in a cul-de-sac, and no one knows where to put the snow. You know, because it is hard to get rid of snow in a cul-de-sac. And maybe that's just something I need to talk to Josh about and try to figure that out just a little bit more.
I've built in a lot of cities, and I've seen some interesting ways to do it. And so snow easement at the end of a cul-de-sac, and then there's a sign that just says no parking, you know, from November to May or whatever the seasonal is. But then the public utility guys that are plowing, they know exactly where to push it. They drive it right in. And then it also has a place to melt. And so I would love to help facilitate some of that if needed.
No, I appreciate that. The other question I was going to ask you is, with these being proposed as possibly 2-car garages versus 3-car garages, is that going to make them more affordable?
Yes.
Significantly, or are we talking like $700?
Well, yeah.
Because that's a big question even here in Kaysville is affordability. You know, everyone wants to live here, but it's expensive. And so that is one other question I was going to ask.
So affordable is relative. Kaysville is a very affluent community, and so that might be different than others' communities. To put it in perspective, a 3rd-car garage is anywhere from $15,000 to potentially up to $30,000 in order to add that to a 2-story. That's traditionally what it's been. And so is that savings? Absolutely. So.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you mocking that up with the 2-car versus the 3-car.
Absolutely.
And great plan, so thank you.
Matt, I have a question about the road width on
Yes.
550. So 66 feet is what the city would normally require, what we plan to require. So tell me, you're proposing 55, right?
So it's not a zoning item, and so it's the development agreement's silent on it. So the city has 50 feet that goes in existing 550. A 55-foot road, which is all the other public roads in the community, that's Kaysville's standard cross-section or right-of-way width. The only difference between a 55-foot road and a 66-foot road is 11 feet of asphalt. And so what I'm proposing, and we have a memo from our traffic engineer that states that we could build over 1,000 units here, and a 66-foot road would not be warranted. And so out of that, there's the opportunity to take the 11 feet of asphalt, and then I would still dedicate the 66, but we would, in lieu, do the 6-foot asphalt trail and the 10-foot equestrian trail. So the curb to curb, it's the same as every other road, and it's sized appropriately. But instead of 11 feet of asphalt, it's trails. That is what I'm continually proposing.
Okay, so you're just proposing to put a trail instead of having a wider road. It'll be a collector road. So we anticipate a lot of traffic on that road. And so 66 feet is recommended by our staff engineers, and
which I will build 66 based off of what the Public Works ultimately decides, because that is at their discretion. So,
okay, and then what would happen to the trail access?
It would be 11 feet of asphalt in the road. And so the trail access for the Jensens, let me back up here. Can you go up one slide, if you don't mind? Is it working? So 550, I think there's an opportunity there. It is a significant local road as it's designated, but that is not, I have yet to find anything that says it's warranted because of, based off of demand or number of cars, et cetera. And I had my traffic engineer look at it, and I jokingly told him, what if we did 1,000 homes here? We had no intention of that. I want to make that clear in the record. However, it's good to know what breaks the system, right? What is the limit? We're going to be talking 150 homes in this entire area. And at 1,000, it was still not warranted to go above that. So, but
Okay.
to answer your question, we still plan to do a trail connection along right here. And so if this is deemed better in road over trail, then we will still have this connection along here. And then depending on, again, some of my neighbors to the north, we will figure out how to make that connection.
To go forward?
Yes.
Okay, I think in 2024-ish, the council decided to update a few things, and one of them was that this was our intention, to have a 66-foot wide road there. So that would be important to us.
Yep.
And if it is something that's important to us, it's something that you can incorporate, right?
Absolutely, which is why we're putting all 16 feet on our side. So that way we can guarantee the 66 foot either way.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I guess what's being said here is that because this isn't, that would be ultimately up to the staff to say, like, it has to be this. And
Well, I think we'd want it in the development agreement. We'd want to clarify that on this road, because you said it doesn't speak to it, right?
Correct, and anything that's not spoken of in the development agreement defaults to the city code. In the city code, I'm still held by everything. And that is where it states that it'll be a 66 foot. So as I bring a preliminary plat in at some point in the future, then that is where staff would go through, compare it to code, cross-reference DA, and then continue with that review process.
Okay.
So it doesn't seem to me like we have to include it at all, like that'll
would just
ultimately come to the staff, but at the same time, I would hope that, yeah, maybe staff looks really long and hard at it, because I think the concept of having the horse trail and the walking trail divide Bridle Up Hope and different areas there, it may be that if it's warranted, that would be something that cosmetically or like safely and all the different things is better. I don't know, but I would default to staff 100% on that. One good thing here is it looks like, at least on the current plan, that there aren't any driveways off of 550, which to me speaks volumes to the fact that even if the road, like a normal road would have people parking on the curb, and this doesn't appear to me to be a location where a lot of people would be parking on the curb. And so that 55-foot road would become even wider versus like your normal street road, correct?
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. There's nothing that says you can't front on there. I mean, very similar to like Sunset.
Right.
However, in our design, we have wanted to try and create that as a corridor. And so that's, you turn into the community off of 550. And so, yeah, it would be either whether a 55-foot curb to curb or a 66-foot. I think our impact to it would be minimal.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for Matt? No? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
Sorry,
Absolutely.
I'm always sneaky like that. This is probably the most random question of the evening. A resident reached out to us and asked about like migratory bird habitats, especially eagles. And I tried to get a hold of DNR, but they didn't have a quick turnaround. They did call me back, but I was in a meeting. Anyway, and so I guess my question for you is, at any point in this process, do you do an environmental impact study? Or, I mean, if you find an eagle nest, is that going to throw off what you're doing? Like, what do you know about that, I guess, since I was not able to find information anywhere else?
It's a good question. So I have not seen anything that says development can't happen here based off of an environmental concern. That said, as we work through the project, if there's something that we come across with that, I mean, we have to work through it based off of whatever the either state or federal laws are that, otherwise it's a liability for us if we don't follow that. Because birds, there's lots of other what ifs as well that could fall into that. So great, it's a great question by the resident. So, but I also have not been aware of any protected species nesting, or I know there's a lot of raccoons. I've heard some raccoon stories.
Coyotes.
But yeah.
Yeah. Matt, I have a question. So it's brought up several times that initially half-acre lots were promised along Sunset and adjacent to the properties in the current equestrian center. What happened to those discussions? I mean, that is a hill people are willing to die on, and so, you know, it's what was presented originally. It was what sales were based off of, so what happened?
So there's a couple things. Symphony Homes did submit a rezone application for 4 lots along Sunset Drive. During that process and through the due diligence, what we found is that the back half of this property would be undevelopable. And so there was new information found as we worked through the process.
Undevelopable, why?
Well, our sewer friends here, this access has been a constraint. I've been tabled for a year over it. And if I have no access here, the city only has 50 feet up here. Plus, I don't want to call that an access, right? That's more just a connection in a sense. But changing this and going from 4 lots on Sunset to the 3 lots with a road was critical in order for us to develop all of the other property that we had acquired. Otherwise, we would be landlocked
so that's the reason.
New information was discovered.
Okay, so assuming
that was not known at the time.
Okay, didn't mean to speak over you. Assuming that the sewer district cooperates and we're able to get the access off of 550 that you were hoping for, that road, then are you
You'd
willing
have to eliminate the road, though, is what he's saying.
Well, you'd have to eliminate the 550 stub right here.
No, he's saying you'd have to eliminate the Sunset access road.
Yeah, so we had 4 lots facing Sunset Drive.
Right, okay.
And we have 3 along there now with the road. And so that road, staff is strongly encouraged that connection is critical based off of fire emergency services connectivity. So there would only be 3. I will point out this. So we have, this is close to a half acre. It's 19,553 square feet. This one's about 18,700. And then these 2 are also equivalent in size. So though they're not on Angel Street and the driveways will not drive onto Angel Street, we do have larger homes as transition adjacent to that. So it's different, I will acknowledge, but we are trying to figure out how to service all of this property with the constraints out there. And that was impossible doing 4 half-acre lots as we once thought.
Okay, how about two half-acre lots? Obviously, it would change your design, but.
Well, can I ask what a half-acre lot gets versus a 1/3 acre lot on Sunset? Because
it just matches the other lots along the road, so.
So we have strategically put the bigger lots at the end of the cul-de-sac because that is an appealing place to live. So Sunset Drive, I have heard a lot of concerns around the traffic and how hard it can be to get out of a driveway. Mm-hmm. And so the comment around we want 4 lots fronting Sunset in this fashion with bigger backyards, but still the same home. It seems counterintuitive to again, some of the things that I've had to work through with the community related to traffic, where this plan accommodates one driveway as opposed to 2 or 3 or 4 on Sunset. So, and then we do have much larger lots within there, approaching the half acre. And I'll also just point out, within this area, we are, and I sent this out to the community, but we, just on the east half, what's abutting the existing homes, I mean, we are 0.35 acres as an average across all of those. And so they're averaging close to 15,800 square feet. And so we can, you know, another 30 feet in the backyard. I don't see the value add ultimately for the community, where these are beautiful homes and we're trying to minimize what kind of driveways and everything that would impact Sunset. So.
Okay.
Mayor, can I have
Yes,
just
absolutely.
one quick question? Hey, Matt. When you put up the land owned, of course, initially when this came forward as a full program, it included the land that was owned by Ivory.
Yes.
Not that hopefully you're allowed to speak to this. A concern I have, obviously, is that I was excited and thrilled about the idea that the plan came forward with Ivory, because then there was, you know, definitely going to be a certain level. And also, we were able to see a PRUD sort of conglomerate plan. Has it been severed? Are you?
No.
Oh, okay.
With Ivory, we are still in constant communication. They are not an applicant for what we're here discussing tonight.
Correct.
So that's
but
where,
is the future still to work in?
Absolutely. And they will, as I mentioned, kind of about the constraints with 550 and tying into Seabiscuit. I mean, they will be forced to work with us, and we intend to do that with them as well. Okay.
I think that probably one of the biggest concerns from the community is that you do build beautiful custom homes. And so that's kind of what they expected to see in your portion of the development.
Yep.
I have heard that Ivory intends to build smaller homes that would be behind the bigger homes, kind of in the center towards the west, you know, west side, West Davis for sure. And so I guess one of the concerns is we allow you to build smaller homes over here. It sets a precedence for future build, for what Ivory does, for what, you know, the neighbors down the street do. And so I think that's really the biggest concern, is we just don't know. We expected Symphony to put in the nicer homes, and then the fill-in, I guess, would be, you know, maybe smaller homes.
Can I give a couple talking points for the council on future applications?
Sure.
550, we are planning on constructing that. And I mean, I don't want to say we don't have to, right? But if it's not us, who is it? Additionally, Angel Street, we have dedication. That road is critical for Kaysville as a whole. It has been determined that this project, regardless of unit and product type, it can operate with or without that connection. Mm-hmm. But understanding the importance of that, in addition to, I'm kind of stuck in an interesting situation. I apologize, Mayor. I'll come up higher. Stuck in an interesting situation where this is one of 5 roads in the city that is a minor collector road, and it's the only one that is excluded from the impact fee analysis. And so this has been intentionally, you know, avoided to plan for. Proportionality has changed from when those decisions were made in the past relative to what the law is now. But there's a significant burden here on this property that we've analyzed all the other developable properties in Kaysville, and I can say with certainty none of them have this type of lift. Additionally, I was tabled for 4 out of my 5 public meetings based off of an access that I could not control. That was also unfortunately created by the two entities helping us solve it, and I'm grateful for that. But a lot of things could have been done differently here. I want to get these roads put in for the community. Talking about why would Symphony get some consideration. Again, this road is a burden. We're trying and continue to be just linked up with staff on trying to figure out how to both dedicate, secure the road, and then ultimately pay for the road.
Well, you're right, and to your point, the city has been very engaged as well.
Absolutely.
The Angel Connection, we went to the county, got a grant, $5.2 million to help with that.
Yes.
Because so we're not trying to be a barrier in this process. We definitely want to be a partner in it, so I don't want that to go unmentioned. And that was a big lift, as well as meeting with the sewer district and trying to work through resolution there, so.
Encourage in the direction that things are trending.
Right, right. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking about 550 West and putting in that road, we've kind of discussed having capital to do that. And I know there's concern with the community that you're a developer trying to make the most profit as you can, putting in smaller homes. And so there's definitely a perception there. There's a lot of bad actors out there, of course. Yeah. But could you speak to that just a little more clearly so that we understand the future planning of that, the cost, the planning, how many lots do you plan to sell, and well, all of them, of course. But like as you roll this out, like how many lots are you expecting to sell a year of these smaller ones versus the larger ones, and how that factors in? That'd be helpful to kind of walk through.
Absolutely. Great question. So with the planning adjustment, we had the single lots, or the smaller lots, single loaded on the cul-de-sac down adjacent to the sewer. That was a buffer as we worked south. Based off of the commentary and feedback, it was, again, let's put a half acre as the transition off the Stenquist, and then we have this single cul-de-sac. Those could be larger lots, absolutely. One of the things that is, again, looking at opportunities. So the orange lots on the east side, we want to build more of those on the west side. With these on the east side, and so the yellow homes, those we're actively selling. They'll be in the $2 to $3 million range. We sell about 5 of those a year. And so just looking at a pace of even touching 550, let alone making a connection, dedication of Angel Street, this project has huge lift. And so by being able to hopefully make the connection right here soon, we put a model here, and again, just being able to provide different homes within this. The orange lots, we sell close to about probably 8 a year, roughly. And so what this would warrant is that we would need to jump over into the west side, which would then trigger the Angel Street obligations in, call it, year 2 with this plan. If those were not there, that would be a year 7 comparison, being 5 yellow lots per year sales pace. Yeah. Okay. And that's off of the last few years, which has been interesting record, right, for a lot of reasons. So it could be longer.
Okay, so if you don't put in 550, does the city have the ability to do that, to pay for that? Like, what's for those who are probably wondering?
I believe we can pay for some of it. I think that we could use some of the grant money, I think, could be applicable.
Do we have any
to it.
cost projections on that? No, at this point?
I'm not really sure.
Well, you mentioned paying for 550 or contributing heavily to that
Yes.
in relation to the lots and how quickly you sell them. If you were to do bigger lots and it slows down the project, would the city have the ability to come in and put that road in? And how much would that cost if we kind of figured that out?
I've run estimates on it. It's north of $1 million. And I don't want to speak for Public Works, but I'll say with a high degree of confidence, they are not planning on improving that. So no budget likely exists for it. But we.
Improving it, what do you mean by improving it?
Constructing the road.
The 550
itself.
exit or egress for you? Okay.
Yes.
But, I mean, essentially, until 550 goes in, it limits their, Mayor, I spoke out of turn.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, without 550, it limits their ability to build more than 29 homes, you know. And so I think it's in everybody's best interest that 550 go in. And
sure.
we've sort of committed to the fact that 550 will be going in. We're going to help make it happen. And so I think it'll.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty much a sure thing.
Yeah, 550 will have to be part of this project, otherwise there's no project. Can I circle back to the question about the half-acre lots on Sunset?
Please.
To beat a dead horse for you. Okay, so how would developing those lots as half-acre lots make the land behind it undevelopable? Is that what you said? Or maybe I misheard you.
So the 4 lots that we submitted 3-4 years ago, they all fronted Sunset.
Right.
But with no road.
With no road.
Okay, so you're saying
Which
because
means-
staff wants the road there?
Well, that has surfaced post that. However, there is legally no right-of-way here. This is a 50-foot parcel that the city owns that will be a future right-of-way. The sewer district has been, they've had their 1,000-foot protection strip, and so we would be entirely landlocked, and there's no way to get in there outside of pulling off of either the stub off Seabiscuit and terminating the cul-de-sac that is on the Hanson's property and continuing that. That is a possibility, never part of the calculus in any of the proposals we've had. So.
Well, okay, so we know we're going to get the 550 connection. We will get that.
Yes.
So can't you use that to access the property if you fronted homes on Sunset with half-acre lots? You're not understanding. So I'm just, yeah.
So in essence, we'd have 2 accesses, is that what you're saying, Mayor Tran?
Well, so I'm saying your first rendition,
Yes,
rendering,
yes. Yep,
right,
yep.
had four half-acre lots on Sunset, but no road.
Correct.
Okay, so then you're saying the city is the one that wants the road
Yep.
access off of Sunset, and that's why you've changed your plan, is that what you're saying?
That is an element of it, yes, yes. So the plan was to put the 4 lots here, and then back here, it's a different project. Talking about community, I mean, trying to build a community within the community.
You're saying it
not
wouldn't be
just-
connected, is that the other part of it? Because they would be fronting Sunset, and there wouldn't be access to the rest of the development from that property?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you not do like 2 lots? 2 half-acre lots on Sunset instead of 3 smaller lots?
Wouldn't the road have to move for that to happen?
Well, you could scoot the road over a little bit. On the map, you could do it easily. Once it's built, it's not easy to do.
If the application was approved as proposed with a condition of 2 half-acre lots adjacent to Sunset, I would be comfortable figuring that out and accepting a motion such as that. If that is some common ground, both with community and then also trying to find paths forward. So,
Okay, so that would mean 2 half-acre lots on Sunset with a road going off of Sunset into your development you'd be welcome, or you'd be okay if we amended it to say that in order to get this passed?
So, and I would say abutting, that way if they face into Sunset, that's better. The city's gonna prefer that, because that's fewer driveways directly onto, backing out onto Sunset. Put them on the road, put them at an intersection, so that's where.
Specifically, which lots are we talking about? 19 and 20 and 21? So
Yep.
you would do what?
So somewhere between this frontage and this frontage,
Okay.
we would have 2 half-acre lots, abutting 550. And then it'll be on us to go figure out how to best implement that.
Figure that out. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Is that all of our questions? Okay, thanks, Matt. We'll let you sit down for a minute. Okay. All right, council discussions.
Fun.
Where are you, guys? What would you like to discuss?
I'll go ahead, Mike.
What's that?
No, you
Yeah,
talk.
go ahead.
I've been around a long time, so I know that this was an area of the city that was technically kind of supposed to be preserved as agricultural area. That's why it was it was an A5 and an A1, and when they came up with those designations back, and I believe it was somewhere around 1983 or 4, when they actually annexed West Kaysville into Kaysville. The sewer district was down there, which they wanted to be protected, and there was a church farm down there and a couple other farms, and they wanted to make sure they protected that as an agricultural area. Now, granted, things don't stay that way forever, but it was the area as the city started growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It was always meant to try to protect that area, and if you know, when the Sunset Equestrian first went in, it was zoned as an RA, which was residential agricultural. Back in the day when residential agricultural first came in, they had to be at least 30,000 square foot lots. That's why you see a lot of lots on Shepherd Lane that were RA are 30,000 square foot lots. But then that got changed, things change, I understand that. But all the people who bought homes down there and understand what's been built around them, in the old general plan, it basically said 2 units per acre west of I-15. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be some changes, and we've made some changes in West Kaysville. We've done some things, but a lot of times it's come with amenities. Now, sometimes those amenities work. We've had some situations where we've allowed smaller lots and the amenities didn't work, and if you drive down Deseret Drive on the east side of it and look at all the weeds, that is an area where the amenities absolutely did not work. We gave away the density. We gave away to get some more density and got nothing from it. We had another one down at the bottom of 200 North that we ended up having to take over as a city to create a park that we don't really need or want, but we'll work with it. We'll get it. So, and then we also have another one that another developer did that's on 950 North. As you're going up, you'll see that is now a city park that was supposed to have been an owners association park. Those have all come at a huge cost to the city. Amenities need to be something that can be used. The trail systems that he showed today, they get used. They're not pavilions sitting down at the end of the cul-de-sac where if you want to go have a barbecue, you have to load up your car, drive all the way down, use that. You do that about twice, and then that sits there and becomes a burden for the homeowners association. They don't do that anymore. Trails seem to work, but I think that from what I'm hearing of the people here, they're open to some designs and some different things that will include amenities. There even sounds to me like if you could get down to the R114 or something similar to that and give some amenities with it. And the one thing I'm a little concerned with is even in all this first lighter yellow color, I don't really see any of those amenities really that people are asking for. Everything is west of that. So I'm a little concerned that you want to zone this and get a smaller zone designation but showing a real pretty picture of some things on the west of 550, but nothing really included on the east side of 550. And that concerns me. And I think the people around here are even open to smaller lots than 14,000 square feet, but using the R114 designation and then getting the credit for the open space that is usable and fits and the trail system that would tie in to the rest of the equestrian makes a lot of sense to tie into that and make it so that is a very usable walking community. That's one thing that I can tell you, the rail trail probably to me is the most used park in the city. This would just lend it to it. It would probably make it so that it's not so crowded being around there. But I think going to the R110 with 6,000, 7,000 square foot lots just starts to really open up something that people have been told for years would not happen to that area. So, and I'm here because I'm basically voted in by the people to be their mouthpiece and decide for them. So from what I'm hearing, this is not what they want. They don't want the R110. They're open to some different ideas. They're open to some higher densities maybe than 2 units per acre. But in transition for that, an R114 designation might work better. And we would be able to get some of those amenities that we've talked about today. But this is not it. This is not the plan. And this is not the one I believe that the people here had anticipated or expected to go in the areas that they bought into when they were told. And the general plan specifically did say 2 units per acre west of I-15. I believe the general plan back then was 13 pages, and now it's, I don't know, 200 or 300 it seems like. But anyway, I don't think the community's ready for this. I think it's closer, but it's not where they're ready to make, where the buy-in is from the community yet. And I think that's really important because people give up so much to come to Kaysville with high expectations. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
Mayor, do you, oh, sorry. Someone else?
Okay, Councilmember Adams, I know you have a lot you'd like to share.
Oh, actually,
Or Josh, were you
do you
next?
care if I ask one quick question? Sorry. Yeah. And I'm really stuck on this. Will be part of what I talk about just for a minute. But what kind of grasp do you have on the type of density you would be asking for, assuming that you would include Ivory in the West project, or is that something that you can't answer to? Is that a lot to ask?
Well, this board can appreciate some of the evolution that has occurred across the board. And so I don't know.
Okay.
All that said, what I've shown, because I cannot speak for property that we do not own.
Correct.
For what Symphony is planning. So across our 32 acres or so, we'd be looking at about 110 units, 120 units, depending on, again, what type of open space and where it's ultimately placed.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. I think, I'll just make a quick comment. You don't have to stand there if you don't want to.
I'll stay up here, but I'll be quiet.
You look great. One of my things that I would like to see is I'm hell-bent on preserving the equestrian center. I feel like that was a commitment to the neighbors. It was in a development agreement that still stands. We're talking about tonight putting a development agreement and having it be enforceable and that it becomes, planted on the land, and yet we would consider not enforcing a current development agreement that states this should be an equestrian center. That having been said, I actually understand the need for housing, and I understand the need for just for us to be a party to, and also the folks that already sold their land. I mean, I think that was, your contribution and also your investment, and also something that probably provided for your family for generations, because it didn't make sense to have agriculture here anymore. And I think you understood that, and it was probably a really tough decision. But the point is that we need the homes. We do need homes, but we want them to be Kaysville style homes. And I think you guys are really putting in a great effort, to be honest with you. I would like to see this entire development, including counting the equestrian center as open space, come to around R14. I think that's what Mr. Belknap has suggested would be something that would be acceptable. The question, I guess, remains tonight, and that we're going to discuss, is can we confidently approve phase 1 with unanimous, well, not necessarily unanimous, but with a firm decree from this body that once everything's said and done, the PRUD of the section, including that 10 acres, will come to R14. That's R114, sorry. That's, I think, what we're trying to decide, at least under my, and I actually do trust Symphony. I feel like they've done a very good job. And I feel like they will stick to their commitment, and we're here to make sure they stick to their commitment. If we feel like that's something that we can trust is the big question, I think, that the body is being faced with today. Because ultimately that's something that I could say I would approve, PRUD of this area coming to R14, including the equestrian center, 10 acres, staying as it is and being counted as open space.
I don't think it's a matter of trust. I think it's a matter of what you can be, well, I guess it is a matter of trust a little bit. Okay, so I guess it kind of is. But the problem was, as I see it, is initially we were presented with an overall plan that did include Ivory's property as a partner with you, and you kind of anticipated, or at least kind of had an idea of what they were going to ask for as well. I realize you can't speak to that, and now it's been broken down. I guess what's hard is we've talked a lot about open space and kind of the feel and look of the community. We don't see this in this first phase. Yeah, maybe it'll be extended in the later phases, but we just have we don't know. And I guess that's what's frustrating, is initially we had a plan kind of presented, and now we have pieces of it, and it is, I guess, about trust, but also about the assurance that you can't anticipate what another builder will do. They might sell their property to somebody else, and that very well could happen as well. And then they're not going to be privy to the conversations that we've had, or partner to it, or even an agreement of it at any level. And we can't assume that the equestrian center is going to be a part of it, because it's not part of this application.
Well, yeah,
and that's what's kind of...
I get it, and I think that's like, I guess what I would say is, if this body tonight decides not to approve this, that it would be incumbent upon us and staff to really be forward pushing on making the process for getting the rest of this moved fast. If you know what I mean by that, I feel like it would behoove us to figure out what we're going to do with the development agreement for the equestrian center, figure out what we're going to do with Angel, and move forward with it so that Symphony can actually come with Ivory for a whole plan and we can approve it.
Here's a question for you, Matt. Okay, so in this first phase, aside from the open space not being really included, how about the density? Could you increase the decrease the density in the yellow, where's the density? In the orange section? In the orange section. So just so that,
You're like, yeah, we could.
We all want to work with you, right?
So how does it get to R14? What are we looking
I'm just
at?
saying, what could you do to make this comply with what we're hearing residents want in this first phase. I think that would do a lot to restore trust and establish a relationship moving forward. With the 2 half-acre lots off of Sunset, what can you do for this cul-de-sac that's the public road, I don't know, the one on the end?
Would you walk out of here comfortable if we approved R14 and just gave it to you at R14 PRUD? R114,
Yeah, I
oh
was
my
gonna say, what are you
gosh.
talking about?
I'm so sorry.
Yes,
R114, if we were to say, yeah, we're all comfortable with the PRUD overlay at R114,
larger lots in the more dense area, 2 half-acre lots fronting, on Sunset.
and think really hard about this, because I think
so
you'd
that
be
you
able to walk out of here with
So
that.
that you can,
A couple clarifying questions.
okay,
Yeah.
So the change in the designation we're currently in R110 across the 15 acres, which in code, if I interpret it correctly, could be 4.4 units per acre if I did
Took it all.
10,000 square foot lots across the board. The R114 is 3.1 units per acre if I redline the minimums on that.
That's correct.
Okay, so, and then with that type of approval, the variations for the setback, some design flexibility to go below to accommodate some homes like this, is that contemplated within that R114 approval?
Let me say this, though. I would never be comfortable doing an R114 without seeing a new lot layout, see what's being put there. I wouldn't want to just blanketly say that and just say mix some
But maybe
smaller
a
lots in
table
there.
with that
But
recommendation.
a table might work with that, but it would be an R114 with the densities of an R114,
right.
the 3.1, whatever he said, per acre, but that would allow them to configure maybe some smaller lots, but show some amenities or stuff. But I'm not even close
No.
to approving
And I
something
hope you know,
without
I was more talking about like,
Okay, because to me, when you're talking development agreement and an
Right.
R114 zone, it's got to be very specific.
Well,
I don't want to
absolutely,
just, I want to
absolutely.
see what I'm looking at.
I guess I'm offering that as an alternative to a downvote. And it would be, I guess, a tabling of,
Mayor Tran, can I speak to that?
yes.
One of the statutes that's recently been passed allows a developer to demand that a decision be made in a timely fashion. And we're up against that deadline.
I do realize
And Symphony Homes has made that request that we either make a decision tonight. So tabling it is not.
Or the applicant could withdraw.
We either, he could withdraw it.
Or extend.
But you can
Yes.
clarify this, though.
Yes.
We extended once.
If we denied the R110, since it would be significantly different to come with the R114, he would not have to wait a year. He could come to the next few meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that.
I mean,
but then you'd have to go through planning commission again.
No, if Symphony
No?
decided to withdraw or extend.
You wouldn't?
Then
Yeah.
you could come back to us without coming to planning commission, right?
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is,
He
Symphony
needs
can
some
choose
direction.
to extend or withdraw, but.
Or we have
Or you can
to
either
take an
approve or
action.
deny.
Yes, I understand, not table. Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Keep us on
Figure
track.
this out. Can I put a proposal out there? My orange lots, those average 8,500 square feet. For all intents and purposes, it's an R18. My yellow lots average over 15,000 square feet. This executes as an R114 in the yellow and an R18 in the orange. No change needed based off of that. I'm hearing the R114 as a possibility. And again, the units, we're at 2.5 units per acre. That is a 25% increase above the presumed 2 units per acre. And I feel confident the city is justified in order to consider this application based on its merit. with the headwind that is there, that we are going to continue to figure out together. And so I propose that. I think the red lines could be easily done even in this meeting, because it's, unless we're looking at an overhaul, I would need to reconsider everything, everything, right? But if it's an R114, the yellow lots are averaging 15,000 square feet. My orange lots are averaging over 8,000, so.
What was the red line you were suggesting? Sorry.
An R114 on the yellow and an R18 on the orange.
Oh, yeah. I like the PRUD. I mean, part of the problem right now that we're facing is that we've already had a request for an R16. Did I say that right, you guys? R16. And so, you know, to Mr. Belknap's, you know, foresight, if you will, that what we do today will influence what happens to come, and there's a lot of land left. I really like the PRUD. I love the idea of utilizing open space and allowing for smaller homes. I pointed out in the last meeting that a lot of our homes, and you pointed out so eloquently, Matt, that a lot of the homes in the Sunset Equestrian Estates are third-acre lots. They've just been surrounded by amenities and open space. Part of that is beneficial to a city park, and then also this equestrian center that isn't using up any open space requirements. So I really like the idea of using that and benefiting from the fact that we already have something that could be PRUD'd and PRUD'd in. But I don't like the idea of splitting it up personally, but.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt. Okay, council, we have to make a decision. So where are we at?
I will make a motion,
Okay.
just because it's time. I'll make a motion to deny the rezone of 14.7 acres, approximately 1820 South Sunset Drive. I'm not going to read the parcels, from RAA1 to R110, and it says R16. Okay, that's what, an R16 for Symphony Homes. My motion was to deny it.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Blackham.
Aye.
We've been going left to right now. We're going left.
Time up. Let's see here. I say nay.
Sucks. Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 3-2. All right.
Are we still allowed to say anything about it, Mayor?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I don't want any of the residents here to think that my nay was because I absolutely am married to the idea of sticking this much density here. I think for me, it was more recognition that we've come really close and that possibly with a few adjustments, we could get there. And an appreciation, I guess, for the changes that have been made. And just for, you know, I think the fact that the Planning Commission was split 4-3 on this shows it's a very difficult decision. There's a lot of things that go into it. I made a whole list of things that I've considered that are like 12 or more things to have to go through. So I guess I just wanted people to know that it wasn't a nay like, yeah, I don't care what you think. It was more of a nay of, let's see if we can get somewhere with it.
And, oh, go ahead. I mean, this really is difficult for me because I feel like Symphony has gone above and beyond. I really do. And I feel like we should be so grateful that they're wanting to build. And, you know, I think Mr. Belknap gave a great summation of that. I promise to them and to you that we're going to get this equestrian center and Angel Street and everything else figured out, and we're going to make this so that it's an awesome community that everybody loves, and will be proud to say that they would stand up when Mr. Belknap says, "Do you approve this?" and everybody stands up and approves it. That's my goal.
I want to say something too. With my nay vote, I have the same sentiments as Councilmember Hunt. I don't necessarily love the idea. I went on a ride with Paul Belknap. It was very eye-opening for me, and I'm very sympathetic to keeping the culture and the look of the community. This really is kind of an impossible decision, and it's hard to be up here to know the right decision. We constantly hear from residents what not to do, but we very rarely hear what to do. And I like to look for compromise, and I felt like all the yellow pieces, I was quite satisfied with that. I was a little bit concerned about the orange area, but without that, 550 West doesn't go in. The city's not going to put it in without a developer contributing. There's a lot of moving pieces to this, and Symphony has really come a long way. And this is very challenging to make this project work and make it work well. I hope that it comes back, and I hope that we're in a really good spot. But I'm trying to look for a compromise and what would make a healthy community. This is very challenging to make these decisions, but I'm hoping that we'll be better off in the end, and I appreciate my colleagues up here. So,
Thank you. Any other comments, council? Okay.
Mayor, we probably also need a motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. I did not realize how late it was. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to extend?
I'll make a motion to extend.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. All right. Item 6B, a resolution authorizing approval of the use of fire impact fee funds for professional services related to fire station design and community education. Thank you, residents. You're welcome to leave if you choose. We appreciate it. We'll just continue on with our meeting. Okay, who's presenting this? Is this you, Jason?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
You'll see the next item on the agenda is consideration of approval of the professional services agreement for architectural design of the new fire station. We don't have money budgeted this year, as you know, and so this would be authorizing the use of our fire impact fee money, which is earmarked specifically for fire growth. We've got $38,000 in this year's budget that has to be used by June 30th, a fire impact fee, and then we have $100,634 that has to be used by the end of next year, FY27. But noting that the cost of the architectural services would be $72,000. That's much more than even this year's amount of the $38,000. So we also are using money already to work with the a public engagement firm, the Langdon Group. We've been working with them on just community engagement. We've had some focus group, interaction with the community to try to gauge where people are, what their questions are, concerns, support or not support for the fire station. So there's been work done there. We've worked on a website, different things. So this money would basically allow us to continue working towards the idea of putting a GO bond on the November ballot, which, obviously we just need to be doing these things if that's the direction the city continues to go. So be happy to answer.
Is there any way for the payment of this to be broken into 2 different fiscal years so that we would then have the money to pay for it?
The next agreement or the next item on the agenda is to authorize the contract for the architectural services for an amount of $72,000. We estimate from that contractor that they would probably use up about $25,000 of that total $72,000 contract by the end of this fiscal year, by June 30th.
Okay.
So this whole money wouldn't come out of necessarily, this budget year per se. I presume, and I see Cole's here, so he can speak to some of this as well, but I presume that if at some point we say, you know what, nope, we're not going to continue with this, we just say stop what you're doing, and we would just discontinue that work, I guess.
Can I ask?
Sure.
I just want to ask some questions on the money. I'm a little confused because I thought the impact fees was just going to be to start for some concept drawings to put, I'm a little concerned where the $72,000 is coming from. Where's that? What is that for? Because just to do some concept drawings, I didn't think would even, I thought the 40,000 or whatever would be plenty for just some concept drawings to show to the public to decide whether to put it on a ballot or not.
Yeah, so I think we're jumping ahead to the second topic, which is the resolution to approve the professional services agreement with FFKR Architects. And so, yes, that is part of that, but a part of that is a lot of processes.
So why would we even approve going to a professional service agreement if we don't know whether it's passed a bond yet or not?
Because it's similar to what we did with the operations center. Our first phase was to do a schematic design, which is what this process does. Schematic design is creating these options for the council to, or for the community to weigh in on. And so the schematic design is part of the process when we get to full blown. If we get to the end of the process and the bond, then we stop like we did at the operations center. Schematic design is
But it seems like because of the budget constraints we have, and I like the idea of using some this year and some next year, that really all we're looking for right now is conceptual drawing. We're not looking to get into a design. We're looking to get into some conceptual drawings that we can show to the public to make them decide whether or not they want a fire station.
But part of that process to get to the conceptual designs is you have to have some sort of concept schematic design, and that's what engaging with the architects is to help do that. Fire engineers, if that's the case, I mean, we can certainly just pull stuff off the internet and say this is what. But there's a lot of factors that go involved with how does this actual building fit on the site, so that we're actually giving a real cost. Part of this process too is to help identify, actually refine the cost as we go through the schematic design. Cost estimates are also part of this process. We'll actually refine and define the cost to where we get it to where we actually know a number that the public is actually presenting on. The number that we currently have that's been floated out there is 60 million, and that's just a number that came from past projects. But projects that we're currently seeing with the architects that we've interviewed and processes, those costs get refined as you actually hone in on a design. So we felt like it was the better process is to actually go through a form of schematic design, which is the very beginning stages of a design process, so that those numbers can be actually real numbers that we are comfortable with based on not just a concept, but more of a kind of a defined plan. And that's the fee from the architects that they've proposed there's also a soils analysis that's part of that we have to do with the unknown soils that we have on site, the overburden that's been placed there.
I can see doing a soils, I can see doing a soils report and soil engineering after we decided to actually build the fire station, because then you can decide whether you need to do it on piles or whatever you have to do based on your, but it seems like we're doing a lot of preliminary expense when we don't know whether we're going to build one or not.
But I think that the expenses with the fire impact fees, that's what they're directly tied to, is construction of a potential fire station 62.
It's just a lot more money than I thought a concept design was going to be. Way more.
I'm not an architect. I don't have. That's the fee that they proposed. To get into that, we had 10 submittals for the selection through the RFQ that we submitted. We interviewed 5, the top 5 highest, and then FFKR was the one that was selected based through the whole RFQ process based on a lot of different factors that they bring.
How was their fee schedule structured when they gave you that? Was the fee
so the RFQ was just based on qualifications.
But did they not include a fee structure of concept design?
Not in the beginning, because that wasn't requested. It was a qualifications-based process, similar to what we've done with the skate park, similar to what we've done with other process, selecting the quality, and then it's negotiating the fees. with the selected firm. So.
Oh, okay. 'Cause, I mean, I've done a
No,
couple of
that's-
these, and there was a fee schedule with that. usually.
On some there are, if you do
Yeah.
a request for a proposal, we did an RFQ.
No, I've done an RFQ before
Well-
where we've asked for some sort of a preliminary.
You
yeah.
can certainly do that. I guess our philosophy, or our feeling there was the fee schedule kind of, what is it? You create a bias in yourself because you're actually then gravitating towards maybe the lowest fee, which that's certainly part of it. But with the fire department, Chief Erickson and Captain McKinnon, the felt was, let's find the best firm that can help Kaysville come to that, the best product, help, all the comments that have been made before in the public comment about phasing things. That's all part of what, as we look through this process with FFKR, is to help identify, are there opportunities to phase? Are there opportunities to construct different things, different method styles, so that we could get that number as low as we possibly can that then goes to the voters. So if I'm saying anything out of line, Jason, you tell me, but that's kind of where we've been through the whole thing, so.
Yeah, I wonder if like the soil testing would have to do with like determining the type of foundation it would need to hold the weight of the station
Yes,
and the vehicles.
That's
and
part
things
of the
like
whole
that.
foundation. The soils report's critical because it does determine a lot of those footings, as Councilmember Blackham knows very well, so.
So, question. So, Mr. Val Starkey, he actually brought up some interesting points in various cities he listed in the phased approach. As far as you know, would any of those examples apply to the schematic designs and all this?
That is part of the process we would go through with this design, is how you design the building is how maybe you can phase potentially different things onto the building. So it takes us from just a concept, which is a pretty picture that has no, real flow to it, to actually getting us to where we maybe have some context of how we could phase it, what could be added later, what could be added now, down the road, sizing. Those are all things that we're considering as we go through this first phase.
So this 72,000 would incorporate pretty much every type of design and phase that we can think of with that price.
Not really, because the
Right, or no?
architectural is going to be 5% or 5 or 6% of the $16
So
million.
this first phase takes us to 50% schematic design. And then after you get schematic design, then you have design development, you have construction design. That is all, so the project basically pauses after this phase based on the voter voting in November. What way that goes, then the project either resumes or it's paused until a later date, which is this same thing that's happened with, with the operations center. It went through a certain phase and then it's paused, so.
My only hesitation is I just want to know if we can do a smaller station and add on to it at a future time and lessen the burden on the city.
Those are all things that we will be discussing as we engage with the architects to look at those, and with the fire department, so.
Okay.
So we can specifically ask that they give us kind of some modular type designs?
Yes, if that's a request from the council, we can certainly, as we meet with the architects, that's certainly something that we can incorporate into the thought process there.
Okay, so Jason, you're saying it's 72,000 total. We have 38,000, right, this year?
We have 38,000 this year, yes, Mayor,
Available.
and 100,000 next year that has to be used. But I want to make clear too that this would be freeing money up for not just the architectural services, but also continuing to work with our public engagement firm to reach out to residents. So we've spent money there already this year. We've kind of stopped that for now until we know if we've got money approved for this year. But we're asking to basically allow us to continue to spend money on both.
From the dedicated account, right? So not from the general fund?
This is from, yeah, that's correct. This is from fire impact fee money that's restricted to the use of fire department growth.
Mm-hmm.
But,
So it's lose or lose?
yeah, oh, it's use or lose
It's
it?
use or lose money, right?
Correct.
The money just goes back to the state?
I think it goes back to the
Goes back to the
developers, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So with that being said, use or lose money, it's over 2 fiscal years, basically, right? Okay.
Correct.
Council, what would you like to do? Would someone like to make a motion?
Will you clarify one thing for me? So you're saying you can use the 45,000 or 40 or whatever it is left this year. How do you proceed with what you're saying next year's money is?
So what we're asking for is we have 38,000 that has to be used by June 30th this year, or we lose it, goes back to the developers. We're asking to increase that to pay for potentially this whole fire architect service, as well as continuing to work with the public engagement.
So how do you plan to increase it for this year?
This resolution would do that. It authorizes us to.
Where would it come from?
Fire impact fee money.
That's already, so there's,
Already
so
in
you're
the
saying
bill.
there's already 140,000 in there or
Correct.
something?
Yeah, we've already got all the money in there in the fire impact fee fund, but we just haven't approved, but we haven't budgeted or received.
Okay,
approval to
that's
spend
that's
it
the
yet.
part I was missing is it's all there
It's-
right now already.
It's all there right now,
It's
correct.
not something that we're thinking
Right.
we're gonna get over future
Right.
from
No, this is
concept.
the existing fund balance in the fire impact fee that, I'm just saying that it's all there now to use, we just haven't had approval to use it yet.
Okay.
The 38,000 is just what we lose this year if we don't
Okay.
spend it by June 30th.
That clears it more.
So it's not coming out of general fund, it's money that's dedicated for this purpose. We're just authorizing you to spend it.
Correct,
Okay.
restricted specifically for this type of purpose.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll make a motion. Is that fine? Can I just say, I'll make a motion that we approve action items B and C? Does that work? Okay.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. Discussion? Seeing none, Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries, thank you. All right, work item 7A, discussion on ordinance, amending the Kaysville Code. It was a tabled item from last time, I think, because we ran out of time, maybe? Okay.
Okay. Just checking to see if you wanted to continue this one again. All right. So based on comments that we heard from the council at the last meeting, we did make some changes to the proposed ordinance. We removed the amendment that would have designated the community development director as the zoning administrator, and then created a section on having a committee that would approve, well, that would weigh in if there's a dispute of the, whether or not it's a permitted use. And then based on that, if the committee that would include a member of the legal team, a member of a city council, and then the community development, if the committee agreed that it was not a permitted use, then it would come to the council for that determination in a council meeting with the legislative body. And the last change that was made was that the appeal process just states that it would be handled as state law allows. So if that addresses the city council's concerns from the last meeting, then obviously we would recommend moving this back to an action item. Going back to what happened with Planning Commission in February, they did vote to recommend 7-0 to have the text amendment approved.
Okay, thank you. Council, any discussion on this? You okay with the committee, or would you like to continue to work on this?
I like the committee approach.
Thank you. Councilmember Jackson, anyone else?
Yeah, I also agree that I like the concept of a committee, especially because it can include someone who's accountable to the public. I mean, not that our employees aren't in some way, because they're good people, but you know, someone voted in.
Okay. Okay, is someone ready to make a motion then, to make this an action item? Or do we need to do that? Remind me, I'm losing it. I'm so tired, sorry.
Yeah, Mayor, we'd typically entertain a motion at this point to move it to an action item.
I'll make a motion, if that's okay with you,
Sure,
Mayor, to
thank
move
you.
this to an action item.
Thank you. Do we have a motion, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. All right, discussion regarding the city's purchasing policy. Jason or Nick?
Yes,
Jason?
this was brought to our attention as maybe something to improve the transparency of the use of city funds. So specifically, I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thought was, well, let me back up. Currently, the policy allows the city manager to approve use of funds up to $25,000 of unbudgeted funds. And the reason behind that is if there's an emergency, unforeseen kind of purchase where, let's say, an emergency repair of a building or some other type of unforeseen emergency kind of circumstance that normally couldn't wait until the next council meeting, it authorizes the city manager to use money and make that call and move ahead with a purchase like that. That's very rarely used, and I don't really have a problem with lowering that threshold of $25,000 down to something much less. I think there will be maybe a rare time where perhaps there would have to be an emergency meeting that we could call. I just don't see it happening often, frankly, because we do a pretty good job of budgeting for everything. But there just are those very, very rare occasions where something couldn't wait and we just need to spend some unbudgeted funding. We did survey some other cities to see kind of what the going number was. There's some cities out there that basically you have to go to council for about everything, even just for $5,000. There are other cities like I think Centerville and I think Clearfield were $25,000 and $30,000, similar to our threshold. But again, based on my experience in other cities, I don't really see a problem with lowering this to something like $5,000, $10,000. One thing I would say is that any change we would make, and this already happens as a practice, but anytime the city manager would exercise that authority of spending money that was unbudgeted, whether it was $5,000 or whatever it is, that we come back and report that in a public meeting at the next meeting. So it's not just what's being spent. And I will say again, this is just not a thing that's very common. Council's aware of the times that we do this because we do come back and report those things. And you know that it's not something that comes up often.
For sure.
We've had a couple of things where, severance agreement, for example, for an employee, that's come up a few times over the years. That wasn't a foreseen thing. But I don't know if that answers the questions. I was just told that was kind of the intent or interest of having this discussion. So happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And I'm curious, at what price point are we supposed to get comparative price quotes? Because I know the director heads can improve up to a certain amount.
Yeah, great question. So it specifically says that anything above 5,000 or above is required to get competitive bids.
Okay.
Below 5,000, it says if practical, get bids, but sometimes it may not be practical. I think as a general practice, we do go out and get multiple bids, even for smaller items. But again, the required amount is anything above 5,000. Sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Jason's exactly right. There's a formal bidding process that's outlined in the purchasing policy agreement, purchasing policy, over $5,000. Under $5,000, you're still encouraged to go out and get bids, but you don't have to go through that formal RFP, RFQ process. And then there's also an exception for professional and technical services, where if you have a specific accountant that you want to work with, you don't have to go through that bidding process because you're not necessarily looking for the lowest bidder. You're looking for a professional in that case.
Well, what about items like, let's say, over $500? You don't necessarily send it out to bid, but getting just price quotes, like 3 different quotes from 3 different places, if that's available, that sells that item.
Yeah, the policy encourages and directs department heads to go through an informal bidding process to get different quotes. It's not mandatory, but it encourages that. Policy does under anything under $5,000. I think generally the department heads have done that. They've gone out and they've, called a couple of vendors and seen where the best price is. But they don't keep a tabulation of that or anything like that.
I'd be curious maybe to entertain making that a policy, like anything over, let's say $500. It's nothing that requires a lot of paperwork, just 3 different cost estimates from, like if it's a lawnmower, like who sells this? Let's get that and let's have some sort of record of it and then a decision made. And then as far as the 25,000 threshold, I think it's good to have the city manager to have some control and say and oversight over purchases. And so I don't want to like bring it down too much, but I wouldn't mind bringing it down a little bit and having a little more oversight.
What's your recommendation, 10,000 or?
I'd like to hear what else the council feels on
Okay.
this.
I do know, Jason, have you ever, so in here it says the city manager may require any acquisition adhere to a more restrictive purchasing process according to your determination under $5,000. Do you have any process or policy in place for your directors, or do they just basically do their due diligence and they're kind of expected to do that and they do it?
The latter, really.
Okay.
We'll have meetings sometimes whenever, we don't look at every expense, and say, did you do this? But, there's a lot of discretion there.
Okay. All right, so Nate, you're suggesting a policy to maybe have them have more of a policy for purchases under 5,000 but over 500?
Yeah, I think purchases 500 and above, we should at least get 3 price quotes, but then maybe at 5,000, that's when you put it out, you get 3 quotations, official quotations or bids.
Can I say one thing though, Nate? I don't want to handcuff the departments too much because, we might have to buy a fire hydrant or something like that. And a fire hydrant, we usually have a specification for it. You don't want to have to go out and bid every time you need to go get a fire hydrant if somebody hits one or you got to go buy one. And that's going to be way over the $500, so you're kind of handcuffed.
Oh, I'm not talking about going out to bid. I'm just saying check 3 different companies if it's available. There's going to be certain items where it's only one company in the area that sells it.
There are literally water valves and things like that that are going to be more than 500. I'm just saying a set of tires is going to be, right, is going to be $1,500, $1,000, so we got to put it at the threshold that we don't slow down their production is all I'm saying if they have to do something.
Yeah, I understand, but maybe it's 1,500 or just
some.
The current wording is when practical, you go get those extra bids if it's under 5,000. And that is exactly why that's in there, because sometimes it just, to get extra bids for something that, just might not be, there are times when it
might
just
say
might
$50.
Make sense,
Councilmember
yeah.
Jackson just wants to make sure that they at least Google it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what we've seen is in the check registries as we look, it seems like there are a lot of runs for things. And it would just be nice to know that we are not going to the most convenient place, but we're actually doing a little bit of research to try to save $1. But we don't want to save $1 to trip over, what's that saying? Save a penny to, I don't know.
Over a dime to save $1,
Yeah.
or, sorry, trip over $1 to save a dime.
Exactly, right.
Just want to make sure we're not handcuffing because as we know, costs have gone up and things, and you have things where you need to buy immediately. And there are a lot of things that if it's on the state contract, we should be able to go purchase those if they're on the state contract, because that means it's already gone through the bid process.
Yeah, I understand. I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that. I think, looking at my own household expenses, it's all the little things that add up, and I think it's no different for a city as well. And I don't want to slow down the city, but I also want to have transparency and checks and balances, and so whatever is reasonable, but shows the public that we're really, working within our means.
Right, and I appreciate that and respect that. I think I would like to kind of look at some other policies, see what other cities have had success with. Maybe there's a reasonable policy, but to Councilmember Blackman's point, I do worry that I don't want to all of a sudden be so onerous with our policy that now it's actually becoming unproductive, because you've got a lot of work that needs to be done. If it's taking a lot of time every time you need to spend $100 on something to go and just go through an extra process. At some point, I want to show that, hey, we trust you, that you're going to, not spend, make stupid purchases. So yeah, I think I understand the direction to kind of investigate, see if there's a reasonable policy we can put in place, prove some extra transparency or do our due diligence where it makes sense.
Sounds good.
Nate, are you comfortable having Jason do some research and compare other policies and bring us something back that seems reasonable?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
No, definitely, yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
so I guess we need a motion then to move this to an action item, and then you can work on some sort of a policy. Does that sound okay?
Yep, I'll make a motion that we move work item B to an action item.
Do we have a second?
Second that?
Okay, Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you for working on that. All right, discussion on placing a general bond for the fire station. Obviously, we've kind of already had this discussion, I guess, so.
Thanks, Mayor.
It's
There is
ongoing.
not a whole lot more to add to that. We are continuing to work with our public engagement firm. We did have a focus group meeting. It's probably been 2 weeks now. Just trying to get a good sense of what people feel about this and pro or con. We're open to all feedback. We have worked on a website that has kind of frequently asked questions, and that website is live, but we haven't done any heavy promotion of it. It's not like on social media or anything. If it is something the council is interested in pursuing or furthering, we would like to go ahead and start pushing that out there so people can start getting educated on this. The more feedback we get, we feel the better. And so that would be something we'd like some direction on. If the council's comfortable, we could start putting that on our newsletter or social media just to tell people that we want their feedback. We want them to get educated on this, and good, bad, or ugly, tell us what you think about this. And I think that'll help us.
Okay, council, what do you think? We're still thinking that this is a good idea? Yes? Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think, when we first started talking about this, I think, had intended to have a pretty big push to try to help with the education on this piece. Do we feel like this is within that? Should we be doing more? Is this, because I think what we want to do is educate people enough to be able to make a good decision. And if we come to ballot time and we don't feel like we've done a good enough job, we may end up with an outcome that isn't necessarily indicative of what the residents actually want.
Right. It's a great question. So I've been through this process once before, did a fire station geo bond like this 12 years ago now, I guess it was, and we're way ahead of that process, which was a good process in my opinion. We worked with a professional to help us kind of do public engagement. Being that this is November, I think we're right on pace where we want to be. We wouldn't start doing really heavy engagement until probably the couple months leading up to the vote, just because generally people aren't that engaged until it's time to really have to make a decision, most people. But we definitely want to get this stuff out there, get people thinking about it, give people plenty of time to start understanding it. And obviously everyone knows, I think, but I'll clarify that we are not about advocating for this. This is simply education. We're trying to just be really clear about what we think the needs are, but we're not saying the sky is falling either. We're just saying this is something we think we need to bring to the public's attention, and then you tell us what you think. Is this something that you think is worth it? Because it is a significant cost. Our job is done when we've informed the residents and done a good job. So to your point, yes, I think that's super important. I think we're on track to where we need to be, I guess is the long answer to that question.
Okay, all right, thank you. So this is just an ongoing discussion item, so no action needed, right? Okay.
Right.
Council member reports? Councilmember Adams?
Yeah, it kind of speaks a little bit to what we're talking about here.
Sure.
I really do still want to entertain the possibility of if the fire station doesn't pass, that we have some type of a remote location for paramedics so that we can get to people faster with the emergency services. Sarah and I were driving to take our horse to the vet, and we were just seconds behind a guy swerved into a power pole, and Cadillac Escalade. So I quickly pulled over and jumped out. Called 911 while I was running to the door. Asked the gentleman if he, was bleeding, anything like that. Just checked his vitals, and he started seizing. I was holding him and holding his arms down and holding his mouth open so he could let the foam out and not bite his tongue. And he seized like 2 or 3 times before the paramedics got there, or the fire. And at that point in time, they said, "We need you to get out of here. We're moving him. If that pole falls," because it was totally cracked and bending this way. They're like, "If that pole falls, we are all electrocuted and dead." Yeah, I just wanted to let people know that I saved a life, probably. No big deal. It's no big deal, but no, I mean, it just made, it reinforced to me that the importance of having the person there to help, even though it wasn't the jaws of life. I know that that's Chief's big thing is like, look, you need the whole force to get there at the same time. The important person I needed there was someone who is trained in helping someone that's seizing, not some, and so I feel like that is an important thing for us to review whether we end up doing this station or not.
You know what, that's a really good point. I think as we have these discussions, though, we need to be really clear, because if we build any kind of facility, if the bond fails and we build any kind of facility, I think it might be misunderstood that we are going against the voters. So I just make sure that we're clear in our messaging. But I agree, we should probably look at doing something. So maybe we need to make a decision, a satellite station or a big bonfire station.
Can we use some of that? Can we use some of that money? I mean, will there be any money left over for that, from what we've appropriated for the impact fee? Or are we using it all? Are we using every last dime?
If we spent the entire $72,000 on FFKR for the architectural services, plus what we're doing with public engagement, we've spent a little over 100,000, maybe 110,000 of
the 170 that we have.
38 that we have to spend by the end of next year.
Okay.
So
great.
We've got probably even more money that we need to spend, I guess is my point, by the end of next year than what we've
Might be a worthy cause to just have a side investigation into what it looks like to have a satellite paramedic. Just a thought.
I agree. And John, you are a hero. You are a true hero.
This lady came out and she was standing talking to Sarah, and the guy's like, "You guys need to leave." And she's like, "But I'm related to him. We just found out." And I'm like, "Okay, but ma'am, we gotta go." They're telling us we gotta go.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other council reports? Council, okay, Jason?
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor and council member, it's too late. I just had a blink. I've already called 3 people the wrong name today, so I'm on track. We were at a great presentation yesterday at Davis Hospital, where our fire department was recognized with the Human Kindness Award, and that was for the save of Dr. Kamalo across the street. Just a fantastic outcome there, where they were able to get to him within minutes and then get him to the hospital within minutes as well, and for him to recover as quickly as he did. It was just a fantastic story. So I know they do so many things. We're so grateful for him, and just wanted to point that out, that they were recognized. Also, just I think this has been in emails, but the previous city manager for many years, John Thacker, passed away not long ago. Served as Kaysville City Manager from 1980 to 2016, 36 years, and a good man. A lot of people knew him, worked with him, and so just wanted to recognize that, and that his funeral, his services will be coming up, and I think
On this
it's out there.
3rd.
June. It's after
June 3rd.
June 3rd. Yeah, thank you. At the Old Rock Church, I think 11 a.m.
Yeah.
So, but That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Jackson?
Yeah, so I was at a meeting, the mayor was in the meeting as well, and the director of the Weber Basin Water Conservancy District talked about our water levels, and we have, our storage capacity is down to 60%, and they showed a graph of all the water years, I think going back to early 1920s, 1930, and it was astonishing. It is significant, the lack of snow and water we have. And there's a very real chance that we could have a very weak snow year this year. And if we do, it's going to be, for lack of better words, could be catastrophic. And so I would love to entertain talking about the splash pad again at some point. I think what we did was good. And I did the math, and we reduced our water usage by 37.5%. I think if we did 5 hours a day, Tuesday through Saturday, during the peak times, we would reduce it to 52%, 52.1. And I would like to, at some point, talk about that if the council is inclined to do that. The governor is announcing very strict measures throughout the state, and they're going to hand out a lot of citations for people who don't comply with their water usage. And about 70%, I could be a little off, but about 70% of our water waste is with our yards, and all of that water does not make it to the Great Salt Lake. Surprisingly, the water that we flush down the toilet, our showers and drinking water, that water ends up in the Great Salt Lake. So, some food for thought.
True, thank you. Just real quickly, we've challenged Farmington to a Flip the Strip contest. So we'll talk more about that in the coming days. It should be fun, just a fun community challenge. Okay. Would
Motion
someone
to
like
adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Every